What a sight that is. This is Calder Park Raceway for the 1996 Nationals, the 30th annual running of this great event. We're into qualifying highlights. I'm Gerald McDornan, and with me is Steve Betts. Steve, what a great event, and what some fantastic qualifying we've had.
Yes, qualifying and the temperatures certainly matched each other, Gerald, at this event. Both extremely hot conditions.
Terry Sainty ran through in the unique Australian-built car, the quickest ever run for those guys at 5:34. That held them in good stead for Top Fuel.
Into top door slammer qualifying, and the absolute crowd hero, Victor Bray.
Bray's run here in the Castrol Konica 57 Chevy was the #1 qualifying time for that class. And remember, this is the first time the top door slammer had ever been run at the Nationals.
Pro Stock Motorcycle next up on the list in our qualifying highlights. Gavin Neals, this time from Queensland in the Waisiko Serco sponsored Suzuki. A brilliant run by Gavin on this particular pass.
Yeah, the Suzuki looked fantastic all of the way down the track. A 781 on this particular run. That was good for #1 right up until the last session. Top alcohol qualifying here, and in the right lane we have Mark Brew in the Brew and Posibon Proformance small block dragster, running alongside the debutant Scotty Ferguson.
Mark Brew, of course, throwing a real curveball at some of the competitors in top alcohol this weekend, Gerald, with the small block Chevy-powered car. Extremely quick and expecting big things.
On this particular run, Brew set Australian drag racing history by running the first ever 5-second elapsed time for a small block powered dragster. Fantastic.
And I believe only second in the world.
Second in the world to Rick Santos in the US.
Top Fuel Motorcycle, Peter Allen.
The Pennzoil Party Time bike, and like Gavin Eales in Pro Stock Motorcycle, this particular run put him into the #1 qualifying spot. That wasn't until the last qualifying run in the class. That was a 7:15. Now into Nitro Funny Car, and it was Darren Carter in the Julie Centre Olds Cutlass who came out for qualifying. He went on a really wild ride here, Steve.
Yeah, even the officials were a bit concerned there on the concrete wall. A young man in a hurry, young Darren Carter in the Julie Centre Nitro Funny Car.
Competition eliminator, so Alfie Sorbello in this unique door slammer, the BMW 850. Now this car won the John Taverner Chassis Best Engineered Sedan Award.
It truly is a beautiful example of a current top door slammer car.
Showing the competitiveness of the class, Sorbello went down the track in 7.51 seconds. Unfortunately, didn't even qualify. Straight into Top Fuel, Ray Ward gave the directions there for Pommy Steve Reed, the Santos Crane Rapisada Top Fuel dragster.
This car has been one of the vehicles that have set the pace over this summer in Top Fuel drag racing, and Steve Reed certainly proves the point on this pass just how competitive this team and this car are.
A magnificent run coming up by Steve Reed. The car launched beautifully. 8 cylinders all the way down the track, and a great 5:04 at 290 miles per hour.
Then something different for the spectators at the 30th Australian Drag Racing Championship, the 96 TAC Nationals, Gerald, and jet cars.
Ansel Horton and Chuck Haynes from the United States toured right around Australia. They came out for one last show, and what a show it was.
The Gravity Storm car of Chuck Haynes there, beautiful paintwork on the vehicle, and Ansel Horton in the car, nearest to the camera. Impressive show, awesome sounds, and what a performance.
The fans have come out right around the country. Chuck Haynes from Billings, Montana. Ansel Horton from Texas in the US. The Jet Set Racing jet dragster. And the goal here was to break 300 miles per hour. They couldn't do it around the country. Would they go close here? They're going to try their best.
The awesome thrust of the jet engines as they head down the quarter mile through the finish line. Some great times there, Gerald.
Amazing times. 5:75s for both races, 275 miles per hour. Now, Steve, we've got to the last qualifying session. Les Donnan, 3-time Australian champion. This is where he knocks off Gavin Eales.
Incredible run by the Castrol Suzuki, a 7.80 for number 1 qualifying position.
Now into the Pro Stock sedans, Joe Polito in the Ford Probe, hoping to repeat his 91 win alongside Tony Wedlock. And Pro Stock, one of the toughest brackets in drag racing. Polito qualified there with a 7.91. Wedlock into the field with a 7.95. Three-time Australian champion, though, Steve, Hans van Dyke. This was his do-or-die effort.
Absolutely desperate qualifying attempt for Hans van Dyke in the far lane, and Kim Petterwood from Queensland in the Pacific Performance Trans Am Pontiac.
Revs rise up on the Pro Stock cars. Clutches are let out. Petterwood on a good run down the quarter mile, but you saw here Hans van Dyke didn't have enough, shut it off early. He was a spectator come race day.
Mike Riley this time in the Pro Stock alongside Bruno Cognetto.
Now Cognetto earlier in qualifying had problems. He had a fire in the Oldsmobile Cutlass, and he was looking for a good run here to qualify into the field, as too was Mike Riley with that beautiful Chevy Camaro.
Bruno Cognetto is certainly one of the young guns in the Pro Stock Eliminator, a guy with a lot of ambition in Pro Stock racing.
Now both these guys again trying to qualify into the field. Mike Riley didn't quite have enough. Bruno Cognetto just enough, an 8.09 on the bump.
Back into Top Fuel Motorcycle. This time in lane 2 we've got Bluey Howard on the Warlock, the quickest and fastest Top Fuel bike in this country.
Now this was the last running qualifying for Top Fuel Motorcycle. The guys actually had to shut the bike down earlier. They then brought it back. Something happened in the timing system. They brought the bike back. They're a single run by themselves, trying to qualify and knock off Peter Allen's 7.15. Bluey dug down deep, kept the throttle open all the way and got there. A great run.
And you can see that bike black track down the track most of the way.
Just an amazing run. Super Stock Eliminator, the quickest ever field in history. And as we went to the last round of qualifying, Steve, there were 20 cars under their respective national indexes.
That's an amazing performance out of all the super stock races of this country, and that's certainly what the Nationals does in this style of racing at this competitive level. It brings out the best competitors and brings out the best in them.
Chris Stepanovich in the night shift 57 Chevy, he qualified well in A-Gas. Unfortunately for Consoldatus in the Video Eliminator car, he failed to qualify.
Probably the most competitive bracket outside Pro Stock in drag racing, Gerald, is the top alcohol cars. And two of the best on the track right now is Gary Phillips and Steve Reed.
Phillips in the Aussie Bananas Rocket Industries top alcohol dragster is looking to take his Australian title back again. Aussie Steve Reed, the Newlon Olds Cutlass funny car there, a bigger engine, more weight to carry though. And under the lights here at Calder Park Raceway, these two cars look spectacular. Can I tell you, a little bit of history came up here with Gary Phillips, the guy who produces something magical. And that was it, the first ever 5.8 second run. And boy, Debbie was happy.
She sure was. A brilliant run. Darren Carter back again in Nitro Funny Car. This time, and alongside him will be Ronnie Applewood in the Corvette.
Rapid Ronnie Applewood and Darren Carter, two young guys, driving these 5,000 horsepower fuel coupes. Now, this run in qualifying in the highlights shows you how unpredictable and how wild these Nitro Funny cars can be. Both drivers left the line out of shape, tyres rattling, and both drivers had to lift very quickly.
Yeah, of course, in these vehicles, you don't get much time to think, do you, Gerald? Once you put the loud pedal down, I mean, not driven one, but by gee whiz, it must be an enormous experience to have when the thing heads off in the wrong direction. You've got to do something about it very quickly.
They are the wild cars of drag racing, but sometimes you get to tame them. And this is probably the greatest run that you could ever say this is where someone tames a funny car. The Auto Pro Dodge Daytona of the three-time Australian champion, Peter Russo, looking for title number 4.
Peter and Helen Russo, of course, extremely dedicated to the cause of Nitro Funny Car, and been been one of the strongest competitors in this field for a long, long time. They deserve their spoils and deserve their wins.
And coming into this final qualifying session, they were already at number 1 with a 5.8 second run. Alan Russo out the front of the car, guided Peter into the hot tracks of the Goodyear rubber and set him on a ride down the quarter mile that created a little bit of Australian drag racing history.
And really great to see Auto Pro running with them this weekend.
A run to remember in the qualifying highlights of the TAC Nationals. Peter Russo, 8 cylinders, all of the way down the quarter mile, 281 miles per hour. Just a magnificent run.
5:39 was the ET, and boy, did he drive it through the finish line on that particular run. What an amazing drive.
He actually went 1.3 seconds after the finish line and probably became the first Aussie funny car to hit 300.
Nitro funny cars again, and this time Dobbo, as we know him, banging the blower in the West Australian-based funny car, and alongside him, Crazy Man Taylor.
The battle of the burnouts. Bella Dobson, unfortunately, that time lost it, but that was qualifying. He's coming back for race day.
Top Fuel Cars sees the brilliant Graham Cowan in the Rocket Industries Shell Rockets, and alongside him is Bob Sherry in the NEC-sponsored Top Fuel Dragster from South Australia.
Now, Bob Sherry and the Ostaskovich brothers, the upsetters in Top Fuel Racing, the underfunded team, go out and have a hit. Graham Cowan here, though, in qualifying, wanted to put the Rocket Industries Shell car into the fours. On this run, couldn't quite manage it, but a 5:09 with all 8 cylinders showed a whole lot of potential for tomorrow's racing.
Robin Kirby, this time coming into the Valvoline lane alongside Rochelle Splatt in the Yellow Terror lane of Calder Park's drag strip. And what a sensation this lady has been for Australian Top Fuel drag racing, and what a strong competitor Robin Kirby is now becoming in the ranks of Top Fuel.
Splatt's meeting was at the anniversary of her return to Australian drag racing, and what a way to return a 5:04.5 to take number 1 spot by 1,000.
13 times Australian champion Jim Reed, this time coming to the start line for his desperate qualifying attempt.
And just an awesome ride like the funny cars. If there's anything that shows you how wicked these cars can be, it was that time. The Flowcraft Ford Cortina in Supergas qualifying. Nick Anstey showing the sportsman races, Steve, can be a part of the action here at Calder Park as well.
They very much are at the Nationals. Of course, the Nationals providing the base for over 400 competitors from all over Australia.
Nicholas Anstey took home $500 for this run, 9.904, just 4 thousandths away from perfection.
Ansel Horton sitting behind the wheel of this amazing jet-powered, jet-set racing dragster alongside Chuck Haynes. These guys create a sensation at night, Gerald. You can see the way the people behind the start line have to clear away from the thrust of the engine. That's a fantastic shot there we see on screen, the glow of the jet engines. This is excitement plus at the 30th Australian Drag Racing Championships, the TAC Nationals.
And what a way to end 2 days of solid qualifying when we brought out Chuck Haynes and Ansel Horton. 2 fast and furious days before 450 competitors get down to racing. We have the greatest fire show on earth.
These cars are truly spectacular. Gravity Storm taking on Jet Set Racing, Haynes versus Horton.
And their last run in Australia, Haynes has been following Horton all the way around the country, trying to beat him and trying to become the first at 300 miles per hour. Would we see it on this particular pass, their last run in the country, or would we not?
An exciting moment as they edge into the staging beams. Ready for the green light, and away they go. And what
an amazing way to finish. Ansel Horton, 5:53, 286 mile an hour. Chuck Haynes, 285. Just magnificent. Well, that's qualifying at the TAC Nationals. Now, It's race day.
Competition eliminator, round 1. Rodney Rainford on camera, and in alongside him from Sydney, Ray Walker in B Dragsters.
Ray Walker, the #1 qualifier. Rod Rainford with this Motivator Race Engines car, been the hitter down here in Melbourne. Walker has problems. The #1 qualifier has pulled off. What a heartbreaking way to lose. Rod Rainford takes the win.
And of course, all he has to do is drive the car to the finish line, Gerald, and he takes home the win.
Competition eliminator is a mixture of dragsters, alters and double B funny cars. Matthew Shepherd in the Gambler running alongside Graham Silk. What a great event it is to have Graham Silk returning to.
Indeed it is, Gerald. Graham been through some terrible accidents recently, but back at the Cleveland Powered C Dragster and doing a fine job. He qualified in the field at #2. Matthew qualified at #10.
Graham Silk, hard man to give a head start to. That's what Shepherd has to do. He won't catch him, and Silk takes the win. 8:52 index. He ran 8:33.
Okay, this time in lane 2 on camera right now, we've got Tommy Easton in the VDO Eliminator.
Running AA altered on a 6:45 index, and he's going to run up against the #6 qualifier, current Australian champion Charles Van Gisseldijk from Sydney. Van Gisseldijk running A Dragster, a 770 index, so the 1.25 second handicap head start goes to Van Gisseldijk.
This should be an incredibly close run, even though these guys have qualified a little bit apart from each other in the field. They're very, very tough competitors.
Van Gisseldijk was actually shutting off in the qualifying, and now he's going to need to run all of the way through to the finish line, Steve.
What he's got to watch here, Gerald, is the 200-mile-an-hour charge of Tommy Easton.
And Easton has got him. He might have shut off too early. Easton's taken the win, 665 to a 786.
Sam and Izzy Blumenstein in the beautiful Oldsmobile A-Alder production car coming in alongside the Cameron and Russell B Dragster.
The B Dragster running an 820 index. The A-Alder production for the Chev Off-Road Marine Engines Olds Cutlass of the Blumenstein brothers, 775. So they will give Steve Russell the handicap head start.
Sam, of course, number 5 qualifier in the field of competition eliminator cars, and this is one tough vehicle.
Lights coming down now. Red light for Sam Blumenstein, and Steve Russell in the Sid Chrome Dragster takes an automatic win. Blumenstein ran 773, so he actually went under his index, Steve, but that's out.
Debbie Reed in the Double C Dragster from Queensland on camera right now, and over in the other lane we've got John Dabrowski in his B Dragster.
The Connolly's Performance B Dragster, 820 index. Debbie Reed running off a 720. So 1 second head start. Dabrowski's car looks terrific off the line. Reed has some problems, and Dabrowski takes an easy win and runs an 822, 200ths of a second. Debbie Reed, unfortunately, had some problems and has shut off.
In the beautiful VDO Roadster there we have Chris Soldatis.
Yeah, he's going to run alongside John Handley. Handley, a 3-time winner of the Nationals, running the Castrol SAFM Double B Dragster from South Australia.
Handicap difference between these two cars, Gerald, about 1 second. John Handley will be sitting on the start line. Chris Soldatis will get the start.
Both cars now coming up into the staging beams.
A little bit of a duel happening here.
Handley stage, lights come down. Red light there for Soldatis, and Handley hits the throttle, shuts off. Sees he's already got the win, and Soldatis is out.
Wayne Jones all the way from Queensland in this beautiful Double B Dragster alongside Gary Laird from Victoria in his C Altered.
Jones awarded the best engineered vehicle this weekend. The Motorcraft Dragster running on a 672 index. Laird's C Altered, 845. Red light for Laird, a 367. So he went 33 thousandths of a second too quick. Jones runs it through a 682 at 200 miles per hour. Rebecca Stewart and Eric Goodsward next pairing up. Stewart driving the B Dragster from South Australia. Goodsward, the Race Glides, Hugo Race Components, C Altered running on an 860 index to Rebecca Stewart's 820.
Great rivalry in the National Gerald between states, and here we have the South Australian going out with a red light, and looks like it was very lucky for Eric Goodsward because he's broken.
Well, that ends the first round of competition eliminator. Rebecca Stewart gets to watch the racing. First round competition motorcycle at the TAC Nationals. You're with Gerald McDornan and Steve Fetz as we see the Trevor Birrell racing bike on screen. The A-streeter of Sam Skerry. Running alongside him is from Melbourne, the guy that wins almost everything here, Paul Andrews.
Paul Andrews on his decomp bike, number 1 qualifying, giving away a handicap start of only 1/10 of a second to Sam Skerry.
Yeah, Andrews actually from Jan Jack in Victoria. Looks over the shoulders, takes a nice, easy win, a 9.48 on a 9.55.
Okay, this time we've got Alan Henry in lane 2, and alongside him is John Parker on the Harley-Davidson.
John Parker, former Australian competition bike champion, running off a 930 index in P-Comp bike. Henry, A Street bike, a 941. Wheel stand, a red line for Henry, and John Parker will advance to the next round of competition motorcycles. He'll look over his shoulder, probably shut the bike off. The tactic there, Steve, is to save your index for the next round of racing.
Indeed it is. John Parker through and into the next round of racing. This time we've got Angelo Ganitas in bike number 78 right on screen there, and alongside him we have Danny Grotto in the P-Comp bike. Another Harley-Davidson in lane 2.
Ganitas qualified number 11, 862 the national index. He gets past Grotto at the bottom end of the racetrack and takes the win with an 875.
Something going wrong with the Harley just at the wrong time. This time we've got Perry Mackey in lane 2, and right alongside him is David Shaw on these magnificent Harleys, as they're commonly known as Thunderbuggers in drag racing for motorcycles, Gerald.
Perry Mackey has some problems here. The runner-up the last 2 nationals. What a way to go out first round. And David Shaw on the P-Comp Harley is going to take a nice, easy win. Perry Mackey and all the boys would be very disappointed. Qualified number 7. Next pair up, Lou Cotter. 3-time Nationals winner, running alongside Craig Bonwick. Also on a P-Comp bike Harley, Cotter. C-Comp bike from West Australia.
1.3 seconds difference in the bikes at the start. Let's see how close they are at the finish line. Lou Cotter through nice and cleanly with a 844 on an 862. Puts him into the next round of comp bike.
Aussie champion Rhett Lockheed, A Street bike, the second of the Seiko Serco bikes. Running alongside Rolling Gill. Gill on a C-Comp bike. Rhett Lockheed, A Street bike. 941 index.
0.8 of a second difference between them on the start.
And Rhett Lockheed looking to be on a nice, easy run through to the second round of competition motorcycle at the TAC Nationals. Takes the win.
Mick Sargent on the Kawasaki in lane 2, closest to the camera, sponsored by Northside, and alongside him is Mark Arrigo.
Both running A-altered bikes. Heads up racing here. 904 is the national index.
And both from Western Australia.
Long way to come. Both races and their crews want to go through the next round of racing. It looks to be Sargent, that mean-looking motorcycle. Good ride. He's gone under the index in 897.
Okay, this time Brian Lennon on the C-Comp bike takes on John Kaiser. John Kaiser closest to the camera in the beautiful red and white Kawasaki.
Last pairing of the first round of competition motorcycle. Brian Lennon qualified number 8 in the fast half of the field. At 62 national index. Kaiser qualified on the bump. Number 16, a 941 index. Lennon appears to have the win. He does. An 860 goes through the next round. Kaiser, 993. Into the first round of Super Stock Eliminator, the toughest 16-car field in Australian drag racing history.
Brenton Bassett on screen right now on the Double B Gasser, the Recar sponsored Sigma Scorpion, and then alongside him Ian Johns in the 500 cubic inch EV Ford.
Double carburetors on that one for Ian Johns. 841 national index. Brenton Bassett 799. Both these guys qualified under their indexes. All 16 cars did. In fact, 20 cars qualified under. Johns has red-lighted in the first round by 3 thousandths of a second. Brenton Bassett shuts it off early.
Good win there for Brenton Bassett. Goes through into the next round.
Johns actually ran 2 tenths under the index. Bassett through the next round. Les Heights, DMP car 399, the beautiful De Jerseys. Race car components, Chevy Camaro, running alongside Brett Rumble, the Sea Gas Ford Escort panel van, the sudden impact car.
0.8 of a second handicap start to Les Hines as he leaves the line cleanly, and Brett Rumble on his way in the sudden impact Escort after him.
Good reaction times from both drivers. 4:33 for Heights, takes the win, a 9:70, 3 tenths under the record. Brett Rumble also goes under, but unfortunately loses.
One of the excitement cars of the 96 TAC Nationals, Murray O'Connor, all the way over from Western Australia in this magnificent supercharged Ford Falcon, and in alongside him, Bruno Cavallo, one of the hometown boys from Melbourne, Victoria.
I spoke with Bruno Cavallo and the team prior to racing. They said they are going to let Murray O'Connor wait on the start line, and let him wait. They are doing. O'Connor qualified second, Cavallo 10th, the 20-second rule. I hope you're counting.
Bruno certainly will be counting as he stages the car, gets a nice clean green light. Murray O'Connor a little bit asleep on the start line, but off and chasing Bruno Cavallo's Sea Gasser.
Smoke the tyres. Cavallo's plan has worked to perfection. O'Connor too much horsepower. Smoke the tyres off the line.
Peter Michael, the current Australian champion in Superstock in the A Street Stinger sponsored HT Holden Monaro, and in alongside him Carlo Ladini in this magnificent Subaru Vortex. Fantastic shape for drag racing. One of the old, one of the new. Peter Michael, number 1 on the car, as Steve said. He is the Australian champion. A good reaction time of 4:87. Ladini a 4:08. He's going to give Michaels a big run for the money all of the way down the track. Michaels holds him out. There's proof of reaction time on the start line there, Gerald. He almost got him with a beautiful reaction time.
Simon Butterworth there, running alongside this guy, and boy, hasn't he made a big reaction this weekend. Theo Pablo Manolakis, the biggest name in drag racing.
I'm glad you said that. Okay, this time we've got a double B gasser alongside an A Streeter. Almost 3 seconds handicap start here. Almost 3 seconds, about 2.5. An enormous gap to catch down that drag strip, Gerald.
Of course, patience is a virtue here. Butterworth gets away. Pablo Manolakis hasn't relighted. In fact, he's picked up 2.5 tenths off the start line. Bang, goes through a great win. 7:70, 2.5 tenths under.
10:45 for Simon Butterworth.
Now, probably the luckiest racer here today, Steve, this guy on screen, Peter Samet, the Nissan Genuine Hearts 300 ZX, running alongside Arthur Kolarov from South Australia. Now, Samet was a non-qualifier, hard to believe, former Australian champion and Nationals winner, number 17 qualifier. Chris Stepanovic has broken. Samet has slotted into the position number 5.
Nissan Genuine Parts, the very proud sponsor of Peter Samet there, Gerald, in lane 2, and Arthur Kolarov over there in the V-Gas Chimera.
8:39 index for Samet, 8:76 for Kolarov. Both drivers away. Samet a great reaction time, 4:28. He has 1/10 of a second up his sleeve. It shows down the bottom end, and the number 17 guy goes through the second round. Picture them breathing a sigh of relief.
David Tucker in the F-Gasser all the way down from Queensland, and coming up alongside him is Ray Caruana in the A Street Commodore. Less than 1/100th of a second difference between these two guys on the starting lines.
Tucker qualified number 1 with a 9:82 on a 10:40 index. Caruana qualified in number 9 with a 10:13 on a 10:41. Close race. Tucker has the advantage, shuts it off nice and early though, goes through with a win at 10.11. Advances to the second round, has to be favourite.
Steve Flynn this time in his Sea Gasser in lane 2 in the Commodore. Coming in right alongside him, Wayne Robson in the A Modified Street Camaro.
Flynn from Perth, the Pro Tech powder coaters at Newlon, Holden Commodore, built by John Taverna Chassis here in Melbourne. Wayne Robson, now this guy has been a big surprise here at Calder Park all season. Come out and run some fantastic runs with a car. Red light at a 3:45 light. Steve Flynn will go through the next round of Superstock Eliminator at the TAC Nationals with that beautiful C-Gas Holden Commodore. Now we're into round one of Top Fuel Eliminator. Pommy Steve Reed, the number 2 qualifier in the Santo Cranes car, about to take on the kid. Darren DeFilippo in the True Flow exhaust digger.
Stephen Reed qualifying in 2nd position. Darren DeFilippo qualifying in 7th position. But in Top Fuel drag racing, Gerald, it almost doesn't mean anything because these cars are so unpredictable. Such enormous horsepower, 5,500 horsepower in each car. This is really racing at the top level.
As you say, Steve, these are unpredictable. Anything can happen, and normally does. Both drivers coming into the stage. Reed got out the first, not by much, but the power of the Santo Cranes car just pulled him through a 5-1-1 to take the win. Let's go to the slow-mo head-on replay here for the TAC Nationals. Both cars moved out towards the edge of the track. DeFilippo lost cylinders. He ran 540. Pommy Steve Reed takes the win. 5:11, 286 miles per hour.
Okay, right on camera now. Terry Sainty in this magnificently engineered, Australian-designed and built engine. It's unbelievable, the performance out of this car. And what can you say about the man there in lane 2, Jim Reed, 13 times Australian champion.
Reed looking to win his first national since 1990 over at Ravenswood International Raceway in Perth. Terry Sainty, his quickest ever run with this car in qualifying, 5:34. The car, the engine, everything built at Sainty Engineering in Sydney. Heads up racing.
And qualifying in 4th position.
Reed's out in front though. The Master Blaster, gentleman Jim Reed, takes the win. A good win of 5:13 as we look at the head-on replay. Reed's car, Steve, right down the groove of the racetrack.
Unbelievable shot there too. You could actually see the clutch coming in on Jim Reed's car and picking one of those wheels up.
Number 1 qualifier, the dragway Bob James T-Mart car of Miss 300, Rochelle Splat. Now to take on this guy, Robert Kirby.
Rochelle Splat, number 1 qualifier in this tough Top Fuel field.
Kirby qualified number 8. But he has gone to number 2 in the points for the Australian Championship a number of times. Splat took the reaction time advantage. 4:35, goes through a great run, a 5:07. Kirby throws the blower belt off and Splat through to round number 2.
Graham Cowan in the Shell Rocket from Sydney, New South Wales, coming in alongside from South Australia, Bob Sherry in the NEC-sponsored Top Fuel Dragster.
Now, Bob Sherry did Graham Cowan a great favour at the grand finals in Sydney last year. He took out Jim Reed in the first round of racing. That enabled Cowan to go on and win his first Australian Top Fuel title.
Cowan qualified number 3 in the field at 96 TAC Nationals with a 5:09. Sherry qualified number 6 with a 5:52.
Sherry's got the advantage. Cowan up in smoke twice, pedals it. The NEC car has caused another major upset. Sherry the win.
Nitro funny car at the 96 TAC Nationals. Peter Russo, number 1 qualifier, earns the bye run, Gerald, with that magnificent 5:39.
281.16 miles per hour. Now the advantage of the bye here, Steve, I think you'll find that Russo will just launch the car. Helen Russo, say 2 bits of tape off the hat, a little bit more air into the nozzle, put your visor down, car's in the stage. Don't be surprised to see the Auto Pro car launch and shut off.
Well, Peter Russo, that's all he has to do, and that's what these guys do in this sort of situation. It's an advantage to them. They get out there and they do the car to about 300 feet to get all the readings that they need for the next round.
Who will he meet in the next round of racing? We will find out just now. Darren Carter, the dually centre, Olds Cutlass, the big burnout there, running alongside the Pacific Performance Chevy Camaro, the Applewood brothers from Queensland.
Darren Carter, of course, from Melbourne in Victoria. As we said earlier on, taking over the driving duties from his father, Jim, and Darren doing a great job in this car. What a beast to tame.
Runner-up at last year's Nationals. Who will ever forget that frightening accident he and Keith Ages had at the Nationals? Ronnie Atherwood. This guy had a funny car licence at 16 years of age.
The Atherwood family, extremely well known in drag racing in Australia.
Carter on and off the throttle. Something goes wrong. Atherwood on a good run there. He got off it a 6.82. That's good enough for the win.
Alan Dobson from Western Australia in the green machine alongside Crazy Man Taylor from New South Wales in the right-hand lane.
I think there's already a little bit of a battle going on to see who's the Burnout King's a funny car, Alan Dobson or the Crazy Man. Now, Dobbo's running this car of Alan Green from Western Australia, Southside Engine Centre Plastonics. They've got a whole lot of support from over there in Perth. They've come over for their first try at the Nationals. They've only campaigned this car 2 meetings.
Alan Dobson, of course, an extremely experienced alcohol funny car driver, Gerald. And is this guy born and bred to run a nitro funny car? I think so.
The smile in his face, you can see it almost from the moon. Crazy Man Taylor, qualified number 2. Dobson, number 5. Waiting for Taylor to come into the staging beams, the TAC Nationals. First round of funny car. Taylor got away first, a better reaction time, and here's the power of the green machine. A good run, shuts it off early, 5.87, 230.82 miles an hour. And that's the first round of the fantastic plastics nitro funny car.
The most competitive eliminator in drag racing in Australia today. Pro Stock Eliminator, round 1 of the 96 TAC Nationals. Kim Petterwood on screen in the beautiful Pacific Performance sponsored Trans Am, coming up alongside the Ford Rocket. Joe Polito from Sydney, New South Wales. Joe coming in at second qualifier with a 791, and Kim Petterwood qualifying number 7 with a 797. Ultra competitive, this bracket, Gerald.
Super competitive, Steve. Polito, because he qualified in Petterwood, had lane choice. That almost doesn't mean anything. The track is super equal, and it gets down to who's got their act together come race day. Pro Stock a war on the start line, not only in staging but in reaction times. And look at these reaction times, a 4.43 for Polito to a 4.49 for Petterwood. 6,000 separated them at the start, but the power of Polito's Ford takes him through for the win. 795, 169 miles per hour.
Rob Quattrocchi in the Valvoline-sponsored Chevy Beretta, closest to the camera, and over in the far lane, Tony Wedlock, all the way from Queensland in his Pontiac Trans Am. Wedlock won the Nationals here 2 years ago in Pro Stock Eliminator. Small block Chevy V8s in these cars. 2 carburetors, no fuel injection. Heads up racing, 5-speed, manual transmissions. Wedlock got out first, a 4.32 light. He looks to have the win. He does. He goes through 798, 168 miles per hour. A very happy man inside that car. South Australian Jerry Parenti in the Valvoline lane in the magnificent Oldsmobile, and right alongside him in an identical Oldsmobile, Bruce Leake from Canberra. Leake, a former Australian champion, qualified number 6. Parenti, a great job to get into number 3 qualifying spot here at the TAC Nationals at Calder Park Raceway. Parenti's car built by Tim McCamus Race Cars in the US. Leake's by Don Ness Race Cars, also in the US. Heads up racing yet again. And the staging games are played. Parenti has red lighted by 3/1000ths of a second. It doesn't matter what happens here because Leake goes through with the win at 8.06. Parenti actually went quicker, a 7.99. Unfortunately, it's all over. Peter Ridgway from Victoria in the Pontiac Grand Prix, sponsored by Allstate Performance. Pro Stocker in lane 1 and taking on his fellow Victorian Bruno Cognetto in the Victorian Performance Wholesale Oldsmobile. Ridgway, the reigning Australian champion, doesn't have number 1 on the car. Qualified number 1. Cognetto qualified on the bump with an 8.09. We know that car can run in the 7.80s. It has set the record in the past at 7.82. Pro Stock racing all on the start line, and it is war on the start line, Gerald, as they wait for the best reaction time.
Well, wait, you can't do. Bruno Cagnetto has cost himself the race. Peter Ridgway, the win.
Top Alcohol Racing, one of the most competitive brackets in Australian drag racing today, where we see a unique combination of alcohol funny cars and alcohol dragsters. They balance the cars with the engines and the weights, and it all comes out on a nice level playing field.
Now, talk about unique. Steve Reed is the only ever winner of Top Alcohol at the Nationals. Aussie Steve Reed has won 3 times. Homie Steve Reed twice. Will the tradition continue?
Mark Brew came down to this event to run 5s and take out the bracket in the dragster, a small block Chevy powered dragster alongside one of Australia's best in Steve Reed.
5.98 qualifying for Mark Brew in position number 4. Steve Reed in position 5, smokes the tyres off the line. The tradition has been broken, and Mark Brew, a great winner, 6:09, 221 miles per hour.
John Zappia, all the way from Western Australia, in the Penrite Performance Oil-sponsored Pontiac Trans Am, coming in alongside one of the greatest racers in Australian top alcohol racing at the moment, Stan Tyndall from Sydney in New South Wales.
Tyndall qualified number 2 with a 5.90. Zappia way down in number 7, a 6.16. So on paper, you would say Stan Tyndall would have the advantage, but as we've seen already, it ain't over until it's over. Heads up racing, funny car versus dragster. Red line for Zappia. He had to try it at the start line. Unfortunately, it was all too much. Tyndall takes the win, a great winner, 5.97, 230.47 miles per hour.
Next race, Jeff Burnett in the Bernard. On camera now, that beautiful Pontiac Trans Am body, and coming in alongside him, we've got Steve Harker in the Harker Transport alcohol funny car, and what a tough combination these two guys are starting to become.
Similar looking cars. Jeff Burnett has won the Nationals twice. Way back in 1973 and 1974 in Nitro funny car. Steve Harker, former Top Fuel motorcycle champion, and they're about to go head to head. Harker qualified number 3 with his first ever 5-second runs. Burnett qualified number 6.
Both cars building the revs now, Gerald, up to about 5,000 to 6,000 RPM in a top alcohol dragster, and then they take the foot off the clutch in an unbelievable speed to get that car down the racetrack, shifting through the 3-speed transmission. It's Steve Harker through the finish line. 6:02, 233 miles per hour. Too much for Jeff Burnett, 6:12, and Harker through the next round. What can you say about this man? Gary Phillips from Queensland, the current Australian champion in alcohol racing, in alongside the Victorian right from Melbourne, Wayne Top.
Phillips qualified with that historic 5.88 second run. Wayne Top, thanks John Noonan, the Lenko special. Simpson Race Products top alcohol dragster, and number 1 and 8 qualifiers about to go head to head. On paper, Steve, you'd say it's with Gary Phillips here, but Top has a lot of the engine components from John Noonan.
And Wayne Top proving that he is still extremely sharp on the start line, but the enormous top end of that Gary Phillips top alcohol dragster goes through and takes the win with a 6:02, 236 miles an hour to Wayne Top 6.
First round of Pro Stock motorcycle at the TAC Nationals, the number 1 qualifier, Les Donnan on the Donnan and Birrell Castrol Racing Suzuki, about to run against the man from Melbourne, formerly from Perth, David Archer. Archer qualified number 8 with an 8.67. Les Donnan qualified with a 7.80. So on paper, the advantage is definitely with Donnan, and this is heads-up racing.
The dominant force in Pro Stock motorcycle, the Castrol bike there in lane 1, looking ever strong. Les Donnan, incredible reaction time of 4.94. He stops the clocks with a 7.85 for the win at 166 miles an hour.
The only lady racing in Pro Stock bike is this one, Rebecca Belvin, aboard Dale Gilbert's Pro Stock motorcycle. In the far lane there, Dennis Ackland, the Hallam Boys IPEC Suzuki. Heads up racing yet again. Belvin qualified 5, Ackland 4. Belvin a bit loose off the start line. Ackland out in front now. Close reaction times, but Ackland goes through 7.95, 165 miles per hour.
The next race in Pro Stock Motorcycle, Gavin Eales from Queensland in the bike closest to the camera, and over in the lane 1 is Morris Allen.
Allen, the 91 Nationals winner. Crow Cam supported. Beautifully presented Suzuki, built by his dad, Homie Peter Allen in Queensland. Gavin Eales, a Serco way, Seco Racing Suzuki. An engine out of Star Racing in the United States of America. Both the riders, a little flip on the throttle, let them know they're ready to get in. Allen gets out, a little bit of a wobble at 300 feet, a puff of smoke, and Eales will go through, takes an easy win, a 7.87 at 173 miles per hour.
Igor Krasnowski in bike number 2 from Victoria alongside Brian Bascom in lane number 1.
Now, Igor has won the last 2 rounds of Pro Stock Motorcycle at the Grand Finals at the end of 95, also the first round of 96, currently leads the series, qualified number 3, and with a 4.58 reaction time at 7-second potential, yes, a 7.92. He goes through to the next round of Pro Stock bike.
Top Fuel Motorcycle. This is the Top Fuel dragster of motorbikes.
The number 1 qualifier, probably one of the funniest mans in drag racing, Phil Bluey Howard, riding against the number 8 qualifier of Steve Little from Morwell in Victoria.
This bike in lane 2 of Bluey Howard certainly has set records every time it's run at the National, Gerald.
Last year ran the first ever 200 mile per hour pass in Australian drag racing history, and qualified first with a 6.98. Steve Little qualified with an 8.79, and 10 bikes turned up the race this weekend. Phil Howard got out from the line first, not by much, but the power of the Kawasaki proves to be too much. 7.28 at 177, although Steve Bluey's bike didn't sound that good.
Yes, the boys tracking an ignition problem this weekend, Gerald, and this time we've got Scott Cummins on the screen with his Harley-Davidson motorcycle alongside Kerry Ellis on the Kawasaki.
Cummins, a former winner of the Australian Drag Racing Series Grand Finals at Eastern Creek Raceway, qualified number 4, Kerry Ellis number 5. So on paper, this should be the closest race. Ellis got out first, a 5.17 reaction time. Cummins a 5.98. That excessive force Harley just gets there first. He needed a 7.58 at 162 mile an hour to take the win over Ellis's 7.69.
Tommy Pete Allen on the Pennzoil Party Time Kawasaki coming in alongside
Jeff Smith, former number 2 in Australia. Harley-Davidson versus the Kawasaki. Tommy Pete got a big reaction time advantage that time, Steve. A 5.40 and runs it through the bike, sounding off there as well. The Quacker's having some problems. 7.34 at 1.58 to take the win.
Gavin Spann this time on the nitrous oxide injected motorcycle, a Suzuki in lane 2, and right alongside him is Steve Smith.
Yeah, the Boss Hog, supercharged Harley-Davidson from heavy-duty magazines, and Steve Smith, like his brother Jeff, slow on reaction time that time, and Gavin Spann takes a good win. And that's it for the first round of Top Fuel Motorcycle. Now we're into Top Door Slammer at the TAC Nationals here at Calder Park.
The first time, Gerald, that the championship bracket has been run at the Nationals, and what a bracket it is.
It is just magnificent. Captain Cuzzo, Alan Bougen in the Castrol Konica Ford Custom line, and Lucky Valeri about to go head-to-head for the first time. Who's going to win the first round of racing at the Nationals for Top Door Slammer?
Lucky Valeri qualifying in the 3rd position at the TAC Nationals with a 6.78, and Captain Cuzzo out there in the Ford Custom line qualifying at number 7.
Cuzzo's car, the second out of the Victor Bray stable. The first time this weekend they're actually running 2 cars And this is history in the making right here, right now. Heads Up Racing at the Nationals for top door slammer. Cuzzo's in stage deep. Blairi coming in as well. The Holden, VP Commodore, Lucky's toy. Heads Up Racing, and Blairi got the 591 to 761 reaction time advantage. Goes through, takes a 693, 199 mile per hour win in top door slammer.
Second race in the first round of Top Door Slammer sees George Clasby in the magnificent Studebaker. Coming in alongside, all the way from Queensland, Michael King in a very unique Holden Commodore.
Holden Commodore hearse for Michael King, the Craigar Performance Commodore. Also support from Penrite Oils Clasby, with the car out of the stable of Murray Anderson in Melbourne. Both of these cars running supercharged, fuel-injected Keith Black Hemi engines, and Clasby with the great support of Pro Cams.
And very tough race this one, Gerald. This is number 4 and number 5 qualifier, Clasby being the number 5.
Very close. King qualified with a 679, Clasby 680. So this should be side by side, door handle to door handle, the entire length of the quarter mile here at Calder Park. Clasby out first, turn the tyres off the line. The Studebaker down the groove all the way, 665 at 206. He's pulled that one out of the hat.
Brilliant reaction time for George Clasby. On the screen now, all the way from Queensland, Peter Gratz in the Valvoline-sponsored 57 Chevy, and alongside him in the 55 Chevy, Tony De Felice from Victoria.
Unique car, Tony De Felice, in Australian drag racing. We saw Gratz there, the big supercharger out the bonnet. De Felice, nitrous oxide, no blower. There is some problems there. They're pushing that beautiful car back, and Gratz gets the solo through to round number 2 with the Valvoline 57 Chevy, the bumper-to-bumper car. Waiting for that green light. He leaves the start line. Don't worry about the reaction time. It was 12 seconds, but he runs it through the bottom end of 674, 208 miles per hour.
And here he is, the king of Top Door Slammer Racing, Victor Bray in the Castrol Konica 57 Chevy, the burnout king of Australia.
Ho, ho, ho. And the crowd just come to their feet every time this guy does a burnout. Well, even gets near the start line. Victor Bray, number 1 qualifier. Looking to set low elapsed time of the round, so he will have lane choice in round number 2. He will take on Clasby, so he needs to run quicker than a 665. The Chevy is in the centre of the racetrack all the way down. Just misses it. Clasby's got lane choice. 666 at 211 for Bray. Round number 2 in Superstock Eliminated. The quarterfinals at the TAC Nationals. The Jersey race car component Chevy Camaro of Les Hines taking on this guy, Theo Pavlo Manolakis, B-Gas.
Les Hines certainly been a pace setter in this field. He came into the bracket qualifying at number 4 and one of the toughest fields in Superstock.
Pavlo Manolakis qualified number 8, double B gas. His index this round, 788. Hines, 985. Theo's got to wait 2 seconds. He does. He gets a better reaction time of 432 to a 493. He's going to push Hines. Hines has just got it. A 967 to a 779. Theo misses it and sets the national record.
Extremely close run at the finish line, and now we've got 2 C-Gases on the start line. Gerald in the second round of Superstock, Steve Flynn and Bruno Cavallo.
917 index for Cavallo, a 921 for Flynn. The difference happened in the first round of racing when Cavallo actually ran under the 921 class index. He ran 912 in the first round, almost heads up. He red lights, so Cavallo, he is out with the Holden Commodore, the VH, a 389 light, Steve. So close, but just too quick.
Exactly, just that little bit too quick. Brendan Bassett in the double B gas. Sigma Scorpion, pretty car from South Australia, comes in alongside Peter Michaels, the Australian champion, in the HT Monaro.
Bass
in A Street.
Bassett running on a 7.99 index, Michaels on a 10.35. So 2.5 seconds Bassett has to wait.
That's a long time to sit on the start line of a drag show.
And it actually proved to be too much. Bassett has red-lined at a 3.88 light. Peter Michael goes through to the next round of racing, shuts it off nice and early, and preserves his index again for the next round.
Next race, Peter Samet, the luckiest guy in Superstock at the 96 TAC National, takes on David Tucker.
The Pacific Performance Camaro. Tucker qualified number 1, has a 10.25 index, and 8.37 for Peter Samet.
David Tucker certainly having this bracket in his hand this weekend. He has been consistently the quickest car, furthest under the index, and doing it easy. Can he take on the very tough Nissan Genuine Parts sponsored Nissan 300ZX of Peter Samet?
Bit of a staging duel here. Peter Singles, the chief starter, signals to both drivers to put them in or back them up. Tucker away, a 5.87 light. Samet red lights by 7/1,000ths of a second. It's all over. The dream comes to an end.
He really had to try, and he did.
Second round of competition eliminator at the TAC Nationals here at Calder Park Raceway. It's the 30th anniversary of the Australian Drag Racing Championships. Wayne Jones, a 2-time winner of the Nationals, taking on John Dabrowski from Cairns in Queensland.
John Dabrowski really has to pull something out of the bag on this particular run against Wayne Jones. He is a tough competitor, and he does indeed pull out a beaut. Reaction time of 4.03 for John Dabrowski, 6.64 for Wayne Jones.
And that was all won and lost on the start line. Dabrowski, a 7.94, goes through to the semi-finals. He drove his transporter by himself all the way down from Cairns. Amazing.
John Handley in the Castrol-sponsored Double B Dragster runs this time alongside Eric Goodsward in the C Altered. The difference in times on this particular run, the indexes, is almost 2 seconds.
8.60 for Goodsward in the C Altered, 6.72 for Handley. Again, patience is a virtue. Goodsward gets the lights come down, a 4.93 reaction time, 4.96 for Handley. So if these two can run to their indexes, it's going to be close. Goodsward goes through to the semi-final round of comp eliminator. A great run, an 8.50. Eric and Wendy are doing a magnificent job in the Race Glides car.
Tommy Easton in the VDO Eliminator take on Graham Silk in the C Dragster. Once again, an enormous difference in indexes this time, almost 2 seconds again. The C Dragster in the handicap start over the supercharged Altered in lane 1. It's
Silk's return meeting, his first meeting in nearly 2 years. Tommy's out in the VDO car trying to catch up against Graham Silk. No chance that time. Silk takes a well-deserved win. 8.28 in C Dragster. Performances that just a week ago you wouldn't have thought possible.
Final run in the quarterfinals of Competition Eliminator. The two Victorians, Rodney Rainford in the C Dragster, the Cameron and Russell Synchrome car in a B Dragster.
Excellent reaction time for Rainford, a 4.25 closest to the screen. He takes the win, runs an 8.41 to Steve Russell's 8.17.
And that's it for the quarterfinals of Competition Eliminator.
Comp Bike quarterfinals now. Two former Australian champions, John Parker there on the Harley Davidson, taking on Paul Andrews from Jan Jark in Melbourne on the D Comp Bike Suzuki 952 handicap or index for Andrews, 930 for Parker. Parker red lights with a .399. Heartbreaking.
1,000th of a second too early.
Next pair up in competition motorcycle, David Shaw with a P-Comp bike, Harley Davidson, right alongside Angelo Ganides. Ganides running C competition bike. His index is 862, Shaw's 930. So 7/10 of a second off the start line. An advantage to Shaw. They both run to their indexes, Steve. They should hit the finish line side by side, and they almost do.
Incredible race. Angelo Ganides there takes the win.
Next pair up, Brett Lockheed on the Serco Waseco bike there on screen. There's Luke Connor from Perth, the Ultra Chrome Kawasaki. Now, Connor's running C-Comp bike, 8:53 is his personal index. He knocked it in the first round. Brett Lockheed, A Street bike, 9:41.
Almost 1 second handicap start will go to Luke Connor in the blue bike over there in lane 1. And this one will be a tough race at the finish line. Both these riders ultra competitive. Staging duel on the start line. Both lights in both lanes pre-staged. The stage light on for Luke Connor, ready to race.
Good reaction time for Lockheed, a 4:52. Big wheel stand. He's got problems. And Luke Connor just storms by, takes the win. An 8:57. Saves his index for the next round.
Mick Sargent in the A altered bike in lane 1.
Taking on Brian Lennon, the Brian and Christine Lennon C-Comp bike in lane number 2. There's Kate Scott on screen, and Mick Sargent came over for the first time to last year's Nationals and looking for another fine finish.
Both stage ready to run, waiting on the tree. Green lights clean in both lanes.
And reaction time advantage to Sargent by over 0.2 of a second. And he will go through to the semi-finals, an 8:85 on a 9:01. That's it for the quarterfinals in the competition bike. We're now into round number 3 of Super Sedan Eliminator at the TAC Nationals here at Calder Park Raceway. Robert Maggs, the Snafu Holden Commodore, the defending champion here at the Nationals, taking on Adrian McGroddy. 9:79 dial-in for Maggs, 10:34 for McGroddy.
Red light for Adrian McGroddy. The win instantly to Robbie Maggs.
3:70 reaction time for McGroddy. That is 3/100ths of a second too quick at the start line, and that handed that win straight away to Maggs. John Bratt is on screen with his Chevy-powered Valiant, taking on Derek Grundy in the Pennzoil Holden Gemini from Penguin. Whack, 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 down in Tassie.
Pennzoil-sponsored car in lane 2, and great to see corporate sponsorship on these cars. John Braddis in the Valiant in lane 1. An incredible Valiant. This is one very quick car, 10.1s it runs on the quarter mile, 10.93 for Derek Grundy. This will see 0.8 of a second handicap start on the Christmas tree, which is about 2 lights.
Now the object of the race here, Steve, is to get to the other end first, but don't go quicker than the time you're nominated, because if you do, you lose. You break out in Dial Your Own Racing. Braddis shuts the car off nice and early, 10:34 on a 10:10 nominated time, an easy win.
And from the professional performance stable, we have Harry Nicolou in his Commodore, running alongside Daniel Tomasi.
Tomasi dials in at 10.10. Harry Nicolou a 9.75. Lights come down. Red light for Tomasi. And Steve, would you believe it? The second time today, 0.399.
Absolutely heartbreaking for a driver who does that. Obviously going for a very good reaction time, but just too quick.
Can tell you that Daniel Tomasi won last year the perfect reaction time here at the Nationals at Helmet from Simpson Race Products. This pairing, we have got Jason Grimmer in the Jaguar, nominated a 9.78 time. Lino Maisalota at 10.10 in the Break No Rules Capri. Break No Rules he didn't, but he didn't win. Grimmer takes the win through to the next round.
Sabin Damage in the RX-4 Mazda on a bye run can take it nice and easy down the Calder Park quarter mile here at the 96 TAC Nationals.
And Sabin takes a nice easy drive down the quarter mile at Calder Park through to the quarterfinals in Super Sedan Eliminator. That brings us to round number 2 of Super Gas. Darren Troy in the red Toyota Supra taking on Elvis Barbieri in the Ford Capri. 9.90 heads up, Steve. Great bracket of racing.
Incredibly close, and the guys quite often have to drive each other right to the finish line. But Darren Troy taking the win there in Super Gas, the second round.
Brendan Fuller up next, the Head Sense. Plymouth Arrow taking on Rob Azapati, the professional performance Mazda RX-7. Now, this is heads up. They've got to run to the finish line, run as close as they can to 990 and not break out as a party takes the winner, 992. Great run, that one.
Incredibly close racing. Hugo de Jean Vincenzo takes on Trevor Lynch. Hugo in this magnificent-looking Statesman, and of course Trevor Lynch over there in a beautifully restored two-door Holden coupe.
Hugo de Jean Vincenzo has won the Nationals twice, once in Super Sedan and also once in Super Gas here at the Nationals at Calder Park Raceway. Heads up racing, 5:09 reaction time for de Jean Vincenzo, 5:49 for Lynch. The Dominator torque converter's car out in front at the moment. Goes through, takes the winner, 10.00 to a 10.01. A great race.
Wayne Keys this time all the way from Perth, Western Australia, taking on Colin Griffin. A great rivalry between the interstate super gases and, of course, the hometown boys from Victoria.
Keys was runner-up to Hugo de Jean Vincenzo a couple of years ago at the Nationals. Red light to Cole Griffin. Big early one as well, a 1.54 reaction time. And Wayne Keys advances to the third round, which will be the quarterfinals. The Bennett brothers racing HB Tirana with Dale Bennett at the wheel, taking on Des Wollstonecroft, this brand new VR Holden Commodore.
Des all the way from Warrnambool in Victoria. And Dale Bennett, of course, there in lane 2, making the trip all the way from Victoria as well.
Red light there for Bennett. Not quite sure what happened there. Wollstonecroft will try his car out. An excellent reaction time, a 4.14. Takes it through for a 9.98. And good form for the later rounds of racing, Steve.
Indeed so. Quarterfinals of Modified Eliminator.
And Paul Turner on screen, the 89 Nationals winner in the Performance Distributors Dragster. Running alongside him is Peter Wilson in the time zone altered from Sydney in New South Wales.
0.14 of a second between them at the start line. Let's see how close it is at the finish line. And the win goes to Paul Turner. Runs a 9.19 on his 890. Dial into a 892 on an 876 for Peter Wilson.
Robert Millett, the former Australian champion in Modified Eliminator, 880 is his dial-in. Right alongside him is Scott Fitzpatrick. Now Fitzpatrick has dialed in at 9.10 seconds. Millett at 880.
Fitzpatrick on the right-hand side of the screen is gradually being overtaken by Millett, but although it's very close to the finish line, and Fitzpatrick takes it with a 9.18 on a 9.10 and a beautiful 4.74 reaction time.
Peter Byrne from Sydney, the Star Performance. Red altered up against a Corona printing. 34 Ford of Allegon, the beautiful car. 1064 dial-in for Owen. Byrne an 866, so patience is a virtue here for Peter Byrne.
Excellent presentation by both these cars. One from New South Wales, the red vehicle, and of course Allegon from Victoria. Alec, a regular competitor here at Calder Park Raceway. Peter from the Star Performance Shop in Sydney, tough competitor from Sydney, and look how close this one is at the finish line, and Allegowan takes the win, a 10.73 on a 10.64. Once again, one on the start line.
One on reaction time, 4.87. Mark Mitchell there on screen, the Street and Strip Engineering Dragster, the blue car. Right alongside him is Ken Stewart. Now Stewart has dialed in at 8.90, Mitchell 8.97, so not a lot separating these two guys at the start line.
And both Victorian, Gerald, racing each other in the quarterfinals of Modified Eliminator at the 96 TAC Nationals.
A 4.10 reaction time to Mitchell, a 5.86 for Stewart. Mitchell in the blue car won that one quite easily, and that's the last run in the quarterfinals of Modified Eliminator.
96 TAC Nationals quarterfinals of Modified Bike.
Sean Arthur on the red bike, 1583 from Western Australia, running alongside Terry Jongan. Jongan dials in 890 and 845 for Sean Arthur.
Jongan closest to camera in this beautifully prepared bike with flames and purple paintwork. Holds the bike on what they call the two-step ignition, which makes it miss on the start line but allows them to leave the line on full power. But Sean Arthur has got this one well and truly, providing he doesn't break out, which he doesn't indeed, a 9.10 on an 845 dial.
Next pair up, that's Chris Cadisi in his debut year of racing here at Calder Park Raceway. Right alongside him, Ray Baker there on screen at the moment. He's in the Valvoline lane here at Calder Park Raceway.
Both riders from Victoria, and a close race this one, Gerald. There is only 0.35 of a second difference between these two riders, and tough racing in motorcycle racing in these categories.
You dial your own racing, of course. You nominate your time that you expect to run. You've got to get to the other end first, but don't go quicker than what you say, because you're going to break out. Gadisi's out in front this time, looks to take the win. He does, a 9.50 on a 9.35 again. Won and lost on the start line. Reaction times are very, very important.
The next race in modified bike quarterfinals, we've got Bo Vegby on camera right now, and right alongside him is Michael Radivojevic.
I'm glad you said that one, Stephen. Bo Vegby leaves at exactly the same time, 0.62 reaction times for both riders. Vegby's dialing a 9.85, takes the advantage at the bottom end of the racetrack and does win. He wins nice and easy, and that's it for quarterfinals of Mod Bike. Now for TAC Nationals, we're into the quarterfinals of Super Gas Eliminator, and 9.90 seconds is a common index for these drivers. Sometimes sounds nice and easy, sometimes very hard to perform.
Super Gas racing, the tough racing at both the start line and the finish line.
Australian champion Craig Geddes in the Holden Chimera. Wayne Anson in the Ford Escort. 4.06 reaction time for Geddes, coupled to a 10.13. Wide and easy win there for Geddes.
Grant Williams in the magnificent-looking Mazda there, alongside Hugo Di Gianvincenzo in the race glides, Holden Statesman.
Again, 9.90 is the index. Heads up racing. Now, a little bit different to the other forms of drag racing. You cannot deep stage. That means you see those staging lights, pre-stage, then the stage, the top 4 lights. Both the top light and that second light must be on. You cannot roll through the beams and only have the staging lights on. There we go. Nice, clean start by both the drivers. Williams, a 4.39 reaction. Di Gianvincenzo, 6.85. Steve, you'd say it's all over, and it is.
Absolutely. Very, very much a slow light there for Hugo, which is very unusual.
Next up, we've got Wayne Keys from Western Australia, right alongside Robert Azzopardi in the professional performance Mazda RX-7.
Once again, the fixed dial-in of 9.90. Western Australia versus Victoria. This is Super Gas action at its best. Robbie Azzopardi closest to the camera. Wayne Keys from Western Australia over on the other side with a terrible reaction time, 0.757, but Rob Azzopardi with a 4.53. We'll see him go through into the semi-finals of Super Gas.
Obviously, Wayne had some problems there or got distracted, because that's, unlike him, a good win to Robbie Azzopardi. Next pair up, Darren Troy. You see it there, the Toyota Supra, looking inside that car, nice and strapped in. There's Desi Wollstonecroft from Warrnambool, and Wollstonecroft, there we go, there's a deep stage, and Troy dropped that top light out, red light, and Wollstonecroft, the automatic win in the Holden Commodore, runs it through the bottom end, and a good run, a 9.91 through to the semi-finals.
Super Street Eliminator into the quarterfinals, and we've got Craig Johnson and Rowan Alexander. And Super Street, Gerald, one of the major entry levels into the Australian National Drag Racing Association system of drag racing, where people can literally bring their street car in. It's got to be a pretty quick one, but they bring it in.
They bring it in anyway. A lot of pretty quick cars out there. Craig Johnson dials in 11 seconds even in the Holden Commodore. Alexander 11.50. Red light for Johnson. It's all over. And Rowan Alexander will now progress through to the semi-finals with that beautiful XY GT Ford Falcon.
Super Street Eliminator, of course, one of those categories which you've still got to run pretty quick in drag racing. The 11-second times you see quite common in the dial-ins. As we look down on Steve Villani's window there, he's got his dial-in time of 11.20 to the Australian champion in Super Street, Juan Kugnig, 11.16. Holden back, HT Holden, in fact, an earlier model than that, in fact, HK.
And the guy ain't holding back, that's for sure. Kudnig has won every major title around Australia and is the defending champion here at the 1996 Nationals.
Juan Kudnig, of course, an electronics expert, and of course in this level of drag racing there's a lot of electronics that can be developed for these cars, and one is one of the best of them. Not only building it, but making it operate.
Good reaction time, 4.99. Juan runs an 11.20 on the 11.16. He goes through to the semi-finals. Steve Villani, a great quarter-final finish at the Nationals, something to be very proud of.
2 Ford Capri sitting on the start line in Super Street, Gerald.
Andrew Ashley and Gary Riley. Riley dials in at 11.22. 11.41 for Ashley, and the advantage off the line went to Riley. Close race, side by side. You can't tell them apart. Riley looks over. He takes the win. He runs at 11.34, and he will advance to the semi-finals of Super Street Eliminator here at the TAC Nationals. Next pair up, Robert Chapman and Ennio Morocco. Morocco closest to screen in the beautiful HG Holden Monaro. Chapman running the HQ Monaro, the black car. 11.14 dial in for Chapman. 11.30 for Morocco. You look inside the car, Steve. Plenty of time. The drivers looking over, judging where their competitor is. And Chapman takes a win, a close win. 11.15. He's through the semi-finals to face Riley next round.
And of course, when you master the art of super street racing, then you go on to the next category up the line. It's Super Sedan, and we're into the quarterfinals.
Quarterfinals, and we've got Jason Grimmer in that Jaguar, Chef-powered Jaguar, making sure there's no smoke inside the car. John Braddis from South Australia dials in at 10.10, 10.10 seconds. Grimmer, 9.75, so it's virtually 0.4 of a second separating the two at the tree. It's one light, red light for Grimmer, too eager to go. And Braddis goes through to the semi-finals of Super Sedan, getting right down to the money round, the big one, the final.
And of course, Super Sedan, Gerald, running on exactly the same system as Super Street, where you dial in to the time that you believe you can achieve, but you're not allowed to run faster. And of course, the Super Sedan cars are just that little bit quicker than Super Street, as you see the 9-second times coming up and the 10-second times.
A cut-off into Super Sedan of 10.99 seconds. If you run 11.00, you're in Super Street. 10.99 quick, you're in Super Sedan. We have got Sabin DeMay and Robert Maggs. Maggs in the Snafu car gets the automatic win because DeMay has red lighted in the Mazda. He's out. Maggs goes through for the win, a 9.78 on a 9.79 dial-in. Now, there's the good example. Had that have been a normal race, he would have actually lost. He went too quick, but DeMay lost on the start line.
And this time we've got Harry Nicolu. He's out there on a bye run in the quarterfinals, an odd number in the field once again, so Harry takes it through. He's got a dial-in time of 9.68, and it doesn't matter, but it's also a great testing time for Harry, and there's the proof of it. A 9.68 dial-in on a 9.68 run.
And now, Steve, we're into a class that's close to your heart. It's Junior Dragsters in the quarterfinals.
It's Junior Dragster, the absolute entry level of Australian National Drag Racing in this country. And of course, the kids here range from 8 years of age right up to 16 years of age and run anything from 10-second times up to whatever. Kids having a ball, they run over the 8th mile in little cars that are powered by 5 horsepower Briggs & Stratton engines, and they have a lot of fun, I can assure you.
Matthew Adamos on the left of the screen there. Young Wade Kismer on the right in the yellow car, dialed in at 12.60. Matthew in a 13.70. Good reaction time for Wade Kismer. Matthew's actually red light had gone way too early, and Wade Kismer goes through to the semi-finals of Junior Dragster.
One of the regulars at Calder Park in Junior Dragster is young Brendan Maggs in the Pennzoil-sponsored Dragster. And from Canberra, we've got Steve Bush.
Now, Stephen has dialed in at a 12.10. Brenda, 14.30. So Steve's going to have to sit there for 2.2 seconds. And that's 5.5 lights on the tree. Excellent reaction time, a 4.03. Young Brendan, a 4.38. Nothing to be disgraced by. It's to the half-track mark, the 8th mile. This is going to be a close one, and young Stephen gets there first at 12.34, courtesy of reaction time.
Shane DeMoon on screen now in the little Junior Dragster from Sydney. Shane, one of the quicker ones with a 13.10 dial-in, and Matt Oakley in one of his final races in Junior Dragster. The car's running on methanol fuel.
And Steve, some of these little Junior Dragsters reach 60 miles per hour.
Yes, well, while we say they're 5 horsepower Briggs and Stratton engines, Gerald, some of them are probably producing up to 20 horsepower. And of course that propels a 250-pound car down the track quite well, and these kids have a lot of fun. The idea of Junior Dragster, of course, is to get the young kids involved and teach them racecraft in drag racing so they can go on to the bigger and better categories and race full-time.
Shane Demoo gets there first, takes the win at 13.39.
And now, Gerald, from the incredibly small little Junior Dragsters into the magnificently big and fast, quick top fuel dragsters. It's semi-final time.
From 5 horsepower, Steve, to 5,500 horsepower per car, the Loddon Computers NEC Top Fuel Dragster of Bob Sherry about to go head-to-head with Pommy Steve Reed in the Sando Cranes Top Fuel Dragster from Sydney.
One incredibly serious racer and dedicated racer is Pommy Steve Reed. Chased his racecraft of drag racing all over the world, from England to the United States to Australia, and right back here in Melbourne again to race in top fuel. Bob Sherry, probably the epitome of a drag racer, a guy who really knows the nuts and bolts of the engines and also can drive the car. He can build these engines, he can drive the cars. He is an expert out there in the NEC Top Fuel Dragster in Lane 1.
Pommy Steve Reed defeated Darren DeFilippo in the first round of racing, while Bob Sherry knocked off the reigning Australian champion Graham Cowan. There's Pommy Steve Reed. The map of the world is painted on his helmet, and how appropriate, as you said, for a racer that has raced in Europe, in the United States and in Australia very successfully. Just going through the last minute preparations on the cars. The engines are warming up. Now what happens? The crew chiefs are looking at the fuel pumps, turning the second stage of those fuel pumps on, removing all of the throttle stops to allow the drivers to mash that throttle to the floor and gain 5,500 horsepower immediately.
The clutches in these cars, Gerald, of course, one of the extremely technical components of the car. To put 5,500 horsepower down on the track, you've got to have a very scientific clutch.
Both drivers pre-staged now. They roll around 6 to 8 inches forward. Fully staged for Pommy Steve. Lights down, green. Steve Reed lit on all 8 cylinders. The Sando's Crane car goes through a great run, a 5:09, 288 miles per hour. What a great run.
As we go to the replay of that fantastic run, you'll see the flames light up on both top fuel dragsters the instant the throttles hit the floor. Steve Reed will come out of the line and just fractionally behind Bob Sherry, but look at this car on the left of the screen, march all the way through to the finish line. Steve Reed takes the win. A beautiful pass from the Sando Cranes Top Fuel Dragster.
Bob Sherry ran a 5:95 that time, and that will put him on the trailer. There is the 13-time Australian champion Jim Reed being strapped fully in the car by his son Philip. The look of intensity on the eyes of both drivers, Reed and Rochelle Splatt. This is going to be a great one. It's Beauty and the Beast.
This really is a match race. They've talked about these sort of races between Rochelle and Jim Reed, the young lady into drag racing in a relatively short time, and then the old stager in lane 2. Jim Reed, as you said, multi-Australian champion and certainly the master blaster in top fuel.
Splatt has lane short. She ran 5:07 in the first round of racing. Jim Reed ran 5:13, running without the support of his long-time sponsor. A bit of a problem here, waving to the crew. Maybe the reverser is broken again. That happened in the first round of racing. The crew will push him back. Now, the psychology side of things, surely that must affect the driver.
You can see Jim Reed, though, Gerald, in an extremely trained driver and an extremely well-trained crew. Obviously, the clapping of the hands is a signal to the team that he hasn't got a reverse gear. He did it immediately. He clapped his hands out the side of the roll cage to indicate to the team that he's got a problem. They reacted instantly up there to push the car back, which is all within the rules. And, of course, you don't need a reverser to go straight down the drag strip in a race. So Jim Reed being pushed back into the start line as Rochelle Splatt waits there patiently. these beautiful missiles, 300 inches long from wheel centre to wheel centre. Rochelle Splatt in the Bob Jane T-Martin Dragway sponsored Top Fuel Dragster. What a sensation she has been to Australian drag racing, and in particular the Top Fuel category. This is going to be a race.
On paper, Splatt has the advantage by 6/100ths of a second on the last round. This is semi-finals. The TAC Nationals here at Calder Park Raceway. We're about to go head-to-head. Jim Reed and Rochelle Splatt. Red light for Splatt. It is all over. Jim Reed goes through to the semi-finals. Splatt shuts it off early at a 5:08. That's all gone because Jim Reed has won.
0.08 of a second too quick for Rochelle Splatt as she goes all over the track in that replay. What a sensational drive by the lady in lane one. Jimmy Reed advances to the final, and that makes it a Reed versus Reed final.
My money's on Reed to win the Top Fuel final. Which one? We'll find out soon. Semi-final time of Pro Stock Eliminator. The factory hot rods go head-to-head on the quarter-mile asphalt drag strip here at Calder Park Raceway. The quickest and fastest all-asphalt strip in the world.
Tony Wedlock, the number 4 qualifier, up against Peter Ridgway, who qualified number 1 in Pro Stock. And qualifying number 1 in Pro Stock at the Nationals is no mean feat.
Now, these guys are the winners of the last 2 Nationals here at Calder Park. Ridgway in 1995, Wedlock 1994.
Tony Wedlock, always good on the start line, Gerald. He's really got the start line mastered, and he's also got the psychology mastered on the start line because, as we talked earlier on, this is war on the start line with these Pro Stock guys. They really have a battle before they even drop the clutch.
Ridgway's gone straight in. Gives the throttle a little bit of a blip. Wedlock's in. Ridgway has red lighted. A 3:12 reaction time. Nearly 1/10 of a second too quick. And his 7.93 is wasted. Tony Wedlock 7.96. Good enough to take him through the final. And a great reaction time for Wedlock. 0.406.
Bruce Leak in the Thumerand Leak Oldsmobile Pro Stock car in lane 2, and he's going to be running alongside that fantastic flying Ford of Joe Polito.
Now, these cars are small block V8s. They work on a weight break rule. What that means is that the Australian National Drag Racing Association says for every cubic inch of engine you have, you must weigh 6.5 pounds. Most of the guys run around 323 cubic inches. That means when they come to the start line, those cars have to weigh 2,099 pounds, including the driver. Equals it out. Slightly bigger engine, bit more weight. Theoretically, the cars run identical. It's proven it in qualifying.
Okay, both cars moving into stage. Bruce Leak is stage, waiting on Polito to come in. He has the pre-stage light on in lane 1, ready to roll. Both green lights, and a good reaction time by both drivers. A 4.39 for Polito to 4.86 for Bruce Leak.
And Leak just drove past him at the top end. Appeared to be a problem there with Polito. Leak goes through to the semi-final, 8.07.
20 miles an hour down for Joe Polito. Funny car semi-final, and Alan Dobson in the green machine.
And Dobson has the advantage here because of the draw. He gets a bye, Steve, and the green machine car from Perth. But Alan Green and Alan Dobson into the final. Their first ever time at the Nationals. How good's that?
And once again, like Peter Russo in the first round of Nitro Funny Car, they really don't have anything to prove. This is a great testing time for them. They can go down the quarter mile in whichever way they choose to get the settings, get the readings from the computer, and go back and adjust the car for the final. This is an automatic ticket for Alan Dobson into the final.
What you'd expect here again, Steve, is that Alan Dobson will stage the car, whack the throttle, launch it, get a 60-foot reading, probably a 330-footer, and then turn the car off. We're about to find out. Dobson, the former driver of the Castrol top alcohol funny car, hits the throttle, the car lights up on all 8, shuts it off, just where we thought.
Exactly, at about 300 feet down the racetrack, and of course that tells them everything for the next race.
Second pairing in the semi-finals, Rapid, Ronnie Applewood, the Pacific Performance Chevy Camaro, about to take on the number 1 qualifier, Peter Russo, and the Auto Pro Dodge Daytona funny car.
Who will forget that unbelievable run by Peter Russo in qualifying at 5:39 at 281 miles an hour and almost running a half a mile down the quarter-mile drag strip at Calder Park before he shut it off. An incredible qualifying pass, but this is the business end of the racing. This is the semi-finals, the second semi, and this is his ticket into the final, but he's got to get past Applewood, and all sorts of things can happen in these cars as they check them. They lift the bodies right up, the fiberglass or carbon fiber bodies. They check the engines, make the final adjustments, set the fuel pumps in the right position, and then put the body down and let the driver take over.
Heads Up Racing, Russo trying to equal Jim Walton's record of 4 Nationals victories, the most ever in Nitro Funny Car. He's got 3. He wants to make this one number 4. Will he get through the final? Both drivers pre-staged. Applewood fully staged. Russo coming in. Applewood the reaction time advantage, but the Auto Pro Dodge lights up on all 8. A big win, a 5:44 at 274 miles an hour, and that's a new national speed record.
Got the car running like clockwork. Peter and Helen Russo and their great team. Look at the flames on that funny car as he goes right through the finish line with them all lit up. The head-on shot.
Watch the head-on shot. Watch the cars move around, pushing towards the centre line, then back into the middle of the track. Hey, that'd be a great ride.
Was that a funny car on a mission? Top alcohol time, ladies and gentlemen, the semi-finals here as we see Stan Tyndall turn around the corner into the start line in the Stanola Racing Top Alcohol Dragster. Stanola, of course, standing for
Stanola.
Stanola.
Stanola Tyndall, the most laid-back people in drag racing. They come out and enjoy it with the crew. They're taking on one of the most professional, Steve Harker, the Harker Transport Thermo King Spectra Dodge Daytona funny car.
Semi-finals of the 96 TAC Nationals in Top Alcohol. This beautiful funny car of Steve Harker, and there's Nola looking after Stan, her hubby there in that dragster, and this guy is really on a mission at the 96 TAC Nationals. So we see them carefully staging the car.
63 years of age, Stan Tyndall, qualified in position number 2. Steve Harker also ran his first 5-second elapsed times in qualifying. We'll need to repeat that. Tyndall ran 5:97 in the first round. Harker wants to run with him all the way. Revs coming up around about 5,000 to 6,000 revs. Heads Up Racing yet again. Harker out first, out of shape, off the throttle. Stan Tyndall goes through, takes the win. Another bit of history. 5:89 for Stan Tyndall.
You can see Harker's car there, Gerald, right from hitting the throttle. The car started to pick the front wheels off the ground, and when they came down, they unsettled the car out of the start line and caused Steve Harker to get off the throttle.
Well, Tyndall has joined Gary Phillips into the 580s. History this weekend. Here's the man himself, Gary Phillips, the number 1 qualifier with the Aussie Bananas car. He's about to take on the screaming small block, Mark Brew.
And this is the moment of truth for Mark Brew. They have run this race copybook style so far this weekend. The small block Chevy powered dragster, they wanted to get it into the 5s. They got it there. Now they're up against Australia's best, Gary Phillips in the Aussie Bananas Top Alcohol Dragster. And if anybody knew a lot about the craft of driving, it's one Gary Phillips out there. He is one tough competitor, both in the mechanicals of the car, but also in the driving ability.
Now, Brew is going to have to really push Phillips on the start line. Both pre-staged. This is Heads Up Racing. Revs coming up on both of the cars. Here we go. Brew got out first, 0.07 of a second advantage. Boy, Phillips's car's moved around a huge amount. He's gone through, though, a 5:87, 235 mile an hour. Debbie Phillips is ecstatic. What a great race. But Steve, look at Phillips's car, left of screen. Look at it.
It's walking around all over the racetrack, even through the finish line when he pulls those parachutes to calm the car down after the finish line. What a great run for Gary Phillips. And certainly great credit to Mark Brew.
TAC Nationals Top Fuel Motorcycle semi-final, and the reigning champions, Phil Bluey Howard, aboard the bike of John Fatcat Hoskins, the Warlord Warlock.
Right in alongside Scott Commons, also in the excessive force team, except this time a Nitro Harley.
The sparks coming off the shoes there. These Harley riders, they drag their feet fair way down the quarter mile. On paper, you'd say Phil Howard would have it. Proven 6-second machine, but as we all know, it ain't over till the fat lady sings. Heads up racing. 6.81 reaction time for Commons, 5.35 for Bluey. The bike blowing cylinders out, certainly wasn't running well. A 7.41, good enough to get into the final, although it's going to be tough against this guy.
Second semi-final, Pete Allen on the Pennzoil Party Time Top Fuel motorcycle taking on Gavin Spann. Both these riders from Queensland, but this bike, the Party Time bike, from Victoria.
Now, a little bit of difference with Gavin Spann's Serco Waseco Suzuki. Spann's bike is 1,500 cc's and uses nitrous oxide as its form of chemical supercharging.
And of course, the Bill Curry-owned bike in Lane 2, the Pennzoil Party Time bike, is a supercharged, nitro-burning Kawasaki. So quite a bit of difference in these two bikes. Heads up, Pro Start in Top Fuel motorcycle. Curry and Allen, Lane 2, Spann, Lane 1, Suzuki versus Kawasaki.
Great reaction time for Spann of 4.79, but Allen has the power, lit up on all four cylinders, a 6.97. He's through to the final round. Pro Stock Motorcycle semi-final here at the TAC Nationals at Calder Park Raceway. Steve Betts, this is really starting to get down to the money end of the night, the Prestige.
Indeed it is. Les Donnan in the Birrell and Donnan Castrol Suzuki, Lane 1. And right in close to the camera is Dennis Ackland on his Pro Stock Suzuki.
Now, Ackland qualified earlier in the event at number 4 with the IPEC Hallam Boys Suzuki, and ran a 7.95 in the first round when he defeated Rebecca Belbin. A little bit of a staging duel going on here. Peter Singel's chief starter says, come on boys, put the bikes in. Ackland looks over, says, hang on, I'll wait till Les goes in.
And this is the staging duel. Les Donnan has decided to go in. Dennis Ackland coming in right behind him. Look for the reaction times. 4.59 for Donnan to a 5.22 for Dennis Ackland.
And Donnan's Castrol bike storms down track, 7.83, 167 miles per hour. He goes through to the final round. Who will he race? It's between these two guys. Igor Krasnowski there on screen with the Kawasaki. And there's the Serco Waseco Star Racing Suzuki of Gavin Eales from Queensland. Probably one of the most professional racing outfits of all types in Australia.
Incredible preparation and work goes into Pro Stock motorcycle racing, and Gavin Eales with, as you say, one of the best efforts. But Igor Krasnowski, certainly one of the toughest competitors in Pro Stock motorcycle, and he's not going to let the best prepared bike go past him unless he has to.
Now here again, another staging duel. Gavin Eales in first. Igor has pole shot him big time, 0.3 of a second off the start line. He's going to go through the winner. He does a 7.90. Eales has run a 7.80. He copped a belting on the track.
Gavin Eales will be banging his helmet on the tank down the bottom end of the racetrack as we go into the semi-finals of Top Door Slammer.
And George Clasby, the Murray Anderson built 53 Studebaker champion, ran alongside his nemesis, the Castrol Konica 57 Chevy of Victor Bray.
Both these cars out of the shop of Anderson here in Melbourne, Victoria. And beautiful motor cars, and there's the Burnout King again, Victor Bray. There is no one can do that better.
George Clasby thinks, why even bother challenging him? I'm just going to heat the tyres. Victor Bray does around 250 runs per year right around the nation, and has now switched to having a two-car team. A huge racing outfit. As you said earlier in the day, Steve, one of the top 3 most popular racing drivers in Australia.
George Glasby in the Studebaker. This is one pretty car, beautifully shaped car. It's amazing to think that this car's design comes out of a 1953 body shape, but it pretty well is exactly as it was produced in its new carbon fibre form.
Yeah, very, very standard. Victor Bray, top qualifier with a 6:53. Glasby had lane choice. He selected the left-hand lane, actually went into stage and he's backed out. I had some problems there. Both cars powered by Keith Black Hemi engines with a big PSI screw supercharged on top. Heads up racing, top door slammer here. Bray full of stage, as is Glasby. Glasby got the reaction time advantage by a 1/10 of a second. They're side by side. The win just goes to Victor Bray with a 6:54 by 19 thousandths of a second. He's defeated a 6:66 from Glasby.
Have a look at this one at the finish line, Gerald. This is one of the closest races you will ever see in drag racing. You cannot pick it by the vision. I'm glad we've got electronic timing.
And the very much unsponsored George Glasby has given the big sponsor Victor Bray a run for his money. And here's 2 guys who are going to decide who will meet Victor Bray in the final. Will it be this guy, Lucky Valeri, the Holden Commodore, or in the battle of the oil wars, the Valvoline 57 Chevy of Peter Gratz?
Peter Gratz, of course, been the racer in top alcohol, Gerald, that has probably challenged Victor Bray in his supremacy of the class. I mean, Peter Gratz has really got his act together with this car. And of course, as you say, being the big oil war between Valvoline and Castrol, it's on for young and old.
Gratz actually defeated Victor Bray at the grand finals in Sydney in an unofficial bracket in November last year. Now it's head-to-head. He's got to get there first. Lucky Valeri has hit some great form recently with the Lucky's toy Commodore.
Tough racing, top door slammer, 96 TAC Nationals semi-final. The second semi to see who runs against Victor Bray in the final. The answer will be before you in about 7 to 10 seconds from now.
Valeri's in Gratz now. It lights down. Valeri trailed Gratz off the line by a 1/10 of a second. The Commodore moved. Gratz goes through a big winner, 6:69, 209 miles per hour.
Valeri actually running a 6:79, so about 1/10 difference between the cars at the finish line, but that 1/10 difference at the start line was where it was all won and run.
Those cars moved around a lot in the centre of the racetrack, but Gratz through to the final round with the Valvoline Chevy. Super Stock semi-finals, TAC Nationals here at Calder Park.
Dave Tucker in that beautiful Camaro alongside Peter Michael in the white Monaro.
And Peter Michael has a tough job ahead of him here. He qualified in 7th spot. Tucker qualified number 1. But Michael is the Australian champion. He has a 10:35 index in Ace Street. Tucker hit his index earlier in the day, 10:17. It started off at 10:40, Steve. He has knocked it down by 0.23 of a second by driving the Pacific Performance Camaro under at 10:40 in the earlier rounds.
Certainly the pace setter in this field of Peter Michaels, the current Australian Super Stock champion. Over there in lane 1 in the white Monaro, a tough competitor. Both cars staged, and it's a red light to Dave Tucker. The pace setter is out. Peter Michael through into the final of Super Stock at the 96 TAC Nationals.
And what a smart, wise move by Peter Michael. He shut the car off early and again has saved his index for the final round. Who will he meet in the final? Will it be this guy, Les Heinz, the De Jersey Race Components Chevy Camaro, running in D-modified production, or Steve Flint from Perth, the C-Gas Commodore? 921 index for Flynn and 983 for Heinz. So Heinz gets the start line advantage, but on performance, it should be fairly equal.
Both incredibly well presented race cars here in this Super Stock bracket. The second semi-final.
That's Flynn versus Les Heinz. Should be a great race, Steve.
Two tough competitors in great race cars. Les Heinz goes awfully close to the side of the racetrack there, but Steve Flynn with problems. Les Heinz goes on through to the finish line with a great reaction time.
A 4:59 reaction time to Flynn's 6:28. Well, look at the replay here now. Head on. Now, we have word from the AMBA officials that Les Heinz is okay. He didn't touch that outside line. Got very close to it from this angle. But had he touched that line, Steve, it would have been all over. Didn't matter how quick Steve Flynn ran.
Exactly. Once you do that on the extremities of the racetrack, you can absolutely not go through into the next round. And speaking of next round, is the semi-finals of Competition Eliminator at the TAC Nationals.
Rod Rainford, the Motivator Race Engines C Dragster, taking on John Dabrowski in the B Dragster. 807 index for Dabrowski, 846 for Rainford. So Rainford will have virtually one light on the tree. Head start. Lights down. Red light for Dabrowski. Got problems done off already. He probably tried to psych out Rod Rainford. And that's a good tactic. But Rainford was on the ball that time and shut off early. He goes through to the final round of Competition Eliminator. Who will he lead in the final? Will it be Graham Silk on screen in Alan Davidson's Cleveland-powered C Dragster, or Eric Goodswan in the Race Glides Altered? Good reaction for both drivers. Goodswan had it off the line, but it looks as though Silks gets there. He does an 8.25 on an 8.40. Great race.
Okay, I didn't ever think I'd see him run a Cleveland motor, but obviously it works very well.
Yeah, he wanted to try an experiment, and it's obviously working out.
Okay, well, thank you very much. See you in the finals.
We will see them in the finals, Steve, Graham Silk and Rod Rainford in Comp Eliminator. Now, though, let's decide who will be there in Junior Dragster at the TAC Nationals.
The semi-finals, Steve Bush in the far lane in the little Junior Dragster, and Shane DeMoon in the closest car. Hellborn is Shane, and he's about 16 years of age too. Shane, he's got a dial-in time of 13.10, and Stephen Bush has got a dial-in time of 12.1, but Shane has thrown it all the way with a red light, so Stephen Bush into the final of Junior Dragster.
Fabulous effort by both those competitors, and Stephen Bush through to the final. Now here's a lucky guy, Wade Kismer, the Victorian Performance Wholesale Junior Dragster, dials in at 12.60, but he has a bye run due to the seedings and an uneven number of cars. Wade gets to test out the little Junior Digger, go through to the final round where he will meet Stephen Bush.
An ideal time to test the car for Wade Kismer. He's got a dial-in time of 12.60. Doesn't matter really what he runs, so he keeps the boot ended all the way, runs at 12.74. He's now got his answers for the final.
Semi-final time of Competition Motorcycle, and the Suzuki of Angelo Ganitti's bags the tyre up, as does the Suzuki of Paul Andrews. Now, Paul Andrews from Janjuk in Victoria, just down the road from Melbourne, running D-Comp bike. Ganitti's also from Melbourne, C-Comp bike. Ganitti's index, 862, Andrews, 952.
Both bikes Suzukis, and both bikes extremely well presented as we look at the clean greens, but a beautiful reaction time by Angelo Ganitti's, a 4:07 to a 5:38 from Paul Andrews. He's going to have to run this one through to the wire.
And he takes the win, Stephen, 9:31 on that 9:52 index. A great run, although he's hit his index by 0.2 of a second.
Mick Sargent there in the lane 2 on camera right now, and coming in alongside him is Lou Cotter.
Now, Mick Sargent is riding a former Lou Cotter motorcycle, but he has progressed immensely since purchasing the bike a couple of years ago. 895 index, Cotter on an 853.
0.4 of a second between the two bikes, and that's exactly one light on the Christmas tree.
Brain-snapping reactions from both riders, 0.40s. Cotter got out, but Sargent was a little better. It's going to be close. Cotter got it. Cotter's through to the final, an 8:32 on an 8:53. Fantastic race.
Semi-finals of Modified Eliminator at the 96 TAC Nationals. Sees Ali Gowan in that beautiful A hot rod there, 34 Ford, alongside Paul Turner in the A Modified Dragster.
Paul Turner won the Nationals in 1989 at Heathcote Park Raceway when the Nationals were on a rotational basis from state to state to state. Now they're located permanently here at Calder Park Raceway. Alec Owen, he knows he's going to have to come back next year if he wants to try and win again. He has red-lighted Paul Turner through to his second Nationals final round in modified.
The second semi-final in modified eliminator sees Mark Mitchell with an 8.97 dial-in alongside Scott Fitzpatrick with a 9.20 dial-in in lane 1.
Lights down and another red light. Fitzpatrick is out and Mark Mitchell goes through to the final round. The former Australian champion, that's his first at the Nationals, is going to be running against Paul Turner.
Modified bike semi-finals at the TAC Nationals.
The rookie, Chris Godisi, on screen there, bike 954 from Victoria, running against Sean Arthur. Now Arthur, bike 1583, dials in an 845, 935 for Godisi. Godisi red lights though, and Sean Arthur, way over from Perth in Western Australia, goes through to the final round in modified motorcycle here at the 1996 TAC Nationals.
Bo Bedgeby in the second semi-final with a bye run into the final. A nice and easy run for Bo Bedgeby there. 9.85 he sets his dial in at, and he's going to run this one out the back door to make sure just what the air is, make sure what the temperature is, to see what his bike's going to run in that all-important final.
Semi-finals of Super Street Eliminator. Robert Chapman, the auto man, Holden Monaro. Running alongside him is Gary Riley. They're on screen in the Win 302 Ford Capri. Now Chapman has dialed in 11.12, Riley 11.20.
Almost identical dial-in. Let's have a look at the reaction time, Gerald, off the start line. Both these drivers have reacted almost identically, a .419 to a .425.
This will be a race right to the wire. Riley appears to be holding out Chapman. He does. He crosses the line first, but breaks out. There we go, the first breakout. He went quicker than what he nominated, and Robert Chapman through to the final round. The margin of victory, 22 thousandths of a second.
Rowan Alexander in his XY Falcon GT alongside the Australian champion, Juan Kuknig in the Holden Kingswood.
Now Kutnig has dialed in 11.12, Alexander 11.42, so he gets 0.3 of a second head start. Again, they must run to the finish line and run side by side. Get there first, but go quicker than what you say. Oh, great reaction time for Alexander, 11.42 dial-in, 4.33 reaction time. He out-reacted Kutnig. It's going to be close for the Australian champion. He gets there. He got there just by 6 thousandths. Oh.
That is one incredible race. And now into the Super Sedan semi-finals. Robert Maggs and the Snafu Monaro on screen right now, and he's coming in alongside Harry Nicolou.
Now Robbie Maggs in that Snafu Holden Monaro, the reigning Australian Nationals champion, dialed in 975. The professional performance car, 965. Thanks with the support of Pennzoil and Auto Pro Glenn Roy.
Can Maggs get into the final for the second year running at the Nationals at Calder Park Raceway? He was there last year and won it. Can he get into the final this year?
Now here's an interesting statistic, Steve. No driver has ever repeated in Super Sedan at the Nationals.
Great reaction time by both drivers, but slightly better by Robert Maggs. In fact, almost half a tenth quicker by Robert Maggs. That's going to take him through for the win if he doesn't break out, and he gets there with a 9.83 on a 9.75 dial-in. Great driving by Rob Maggs, and that's a manually equipped car. Manual gearbox.
Very happy through the win margin, 69 thousandths of a second. Now this guy's lucky here. He's smiling. Big grin. John Braddis from South Australia has a bye run through to the final round in Super Sedan here at the 96 TAC Nationals. The Chevy engine, 8B5 Valiant, right down the centre of the racetrack there. Dialed in at a 10.10. He runs it through a 9.96. A lot of smoke. Don't worry about that.
Supergas semi-finals, the 990 cars. They've got the fixed index, We've got a race at the start line and the finish line, as we said earlier on. This is a great category for young drivers, and of course these guys, two of the best.
Craig Geddes running alongside Robert Azzopardi. Geddes red lighted. Azzopardi's through to the final. The professional performance Mazda RX-7. Hey boy, those guys ran him out the back door. 960s.
I think Robbie Azzopardi never saw the red light for Craig Geddes, and he drove it out the back door trying to win. Des Wollstonecroft this time takes on Grant Williams in this little Mazda in lane 2. Great looking little car, and the only rotary engine car in super gas, and what a performance this guy puts on. Des Wollstonecroft in the VR Commodore, brand spanking new. Both cars leave the line beautifully, almost identical reaction times of 4:54 for Wollstonecroft and 4:57 for Williams.
Close side by side, a breakout for Williams, a double breakout, but Desi Wollstonecroft, the 9.862, he's through to the final.
And what a magnificent series of finals it's going to be, Gerald, here at the 96 TAC Nationals. Over 450 competitors from all states and territories around Australia, and over 80,000 spectators over the 3 days at this magnificent Calder Park complex.
Another record event, Steve, and it's all come down to this. The finals of the 1996 TAC Nationals. The 30th anniversary Australian Drag Racing Championships. Junior dragster Wade Kismer from Victoria. Victorian Performance Wholesale Car. The GB Driveways Junior Digger of Stephen Bush, there on screen closest to camera.
And this final in the Junior Dragsters, Gerald, is just as important to these kids as the Top Fuel final is to the two Reeds. They are deadly serious out there on the start line. A 12.15 dial in for Stephen Bush closest to the camera, and a 12.60 dial in for Wade Kismer in lane 1 furthest away from the cameras. They both leave the line. Good reaction time for Stephen Bush. In fact, a brilliant reaction time of 4.62. That's going to give him a very, very big advantage in this race as he goes through and takes the win. A 12.15 on a 12.19 dial in.
Well, Steve, your first national championship in junior dragster. That's got to be a proud moment.
Yeah. I'm just so excited, you know, like this is the second final in a row, 2 wins in a row. It's just unbelievable.
The adrenaline's still pumping?
Yep.
Okay, well done. I don't know what you go and celebrate with, a hot glass of milk?
Yeah, probably.
Colin Russell doing the interviews down there, and a hot glass of milk for Stephen Bush. I'm sure that Bo Vedgeby or Sean Arthur, if they take a win here, Steve, they'll go and have a nice, cool can of beer. Although, if you drink then drive,
you are a bloody idiot.
Sean Arthur dials in at an 8.45. Vedgeby there on screen, a 9.75. 1.3 second handicapped start to the Victorian. Good reaction time for Vedgeby, a 4.53. Arthur even better, a 4.37. He's going to need every bit of it that he can find. He does, he gets there. Sean Arthur takes the win by just 5/1000ths of a second, and he cannot believe it. Have a look to the sky. Well done.
Well, all the way across from Western Australia, first mod bike title of the Nationals.
Yeah, it's a long way to come, but it was a good meeting.
It was a great meeting. I guess any meeting is successful, that's great.
Yeah, top qualifying wins, just unbelievable.
Well, well done, Sean Arthur.
Thank you very much.
Very happy guy there, Steve, and now Super Street Eliminator. Let's decide who'll take home the 30th annual Drag Racing Championships Nationals Trophy.
Robert Chapman in the Monaro there alongside Juan Kugnig, the Australian champion. Right on screen now. Holding back, he calls the car, and he certainly doesn't hold back against any competitor. One very tough racer. But this is going to be a great final. The dial-in times 11.12 for lane 1, the dark car, and 11.12 for the car in lane 2. Identical.
Heads up racing. Kudnik, the reaction time advantage. We're not surprised at that point. 4.44. You don't win 2 Australian titles, and now 2 nationals for being bad. He is a fantastic racer. Well done, Robert Chapman. But Juan Kudnik, congratulations again. 2 Nationals titles here at Calder Park Raceway.
Juan, everyone reckons you've got all the great gear on this car. 11.12 dial in. A competitor had 11.12. The final must have been fairly tough.
Oh, yes, it was a tough run. We
We did get to back off slightly at the far end, so I don't quite sure what it was going to run. My reaction was a little better than the opponent's.
You've had some great .4 reactions though, whole weekend. Got any devices to give you that .4?
I utilised a delay box of my own construction.
Right.
Through my own business, Races Edge Electronics, which I construct 4 races and market to races currently in Australia.
Obviously works.
Thank you very much.
Okay, and thank you.
Thank you.
The Super Sedan final of the 96 TAC Nationals. John Bradis in the Valiant. They're doing the burnout, and Robbie Maggs in the Monaro also completing his burnout. Can the 1995 champion do it again, Gerald?
Well, Robbie Maggs has performed exceptionally well. This is a manually stick-shifted car. For something in a dial-your-own bracket is very rare. John Bradis running the automatic in the AP5 Valiant. Chevy V8 in that Valiant, but Maggs manually shifting and really has to drive exceptionally well for this car to perform well. Bradis's car, a lot of smoke there. Maggs well out in front, had the reaction time advantage on the brakes too early. He's lost by 1/1000th of a second.
A thousandth of a second victory for John Bradis.
Unbelievable.
I just want to ask you a quick question.
Yes?
Well, John Bradis,
Yeah.
it's a Valiant, that's a Chrysler of course.
Yeah.
What motor you got in that?
Well, it's a Chev. Run your way.
Well, you're still a champion, you're still a winner.
That's right, yep.
Well done, congratulations.
Thank you.
A very excited John Bradis. I tell you who wasn't excited just then. It was Mark Mitchell. He had problems starting the car. The battery went flat. One of the bike competitors, Steve, has passed over the jump leads and jump-started Mark Mitchell's car.
This is the final of Modified Eliminator at the 96 TAC Nationals. Paul Turner on screen now, right in front of the camera, and Mark Mitchell over in the far lane. The dial-in times for both these cars are almost identical. 8.94 to lane 1, 8.90 in lane 2.
Almost heads-up racing. Red light to Paul Turner. 3.92. Mark Mitchell finally wins the Nationals. A 4.29 reaction. That guy'd be going crazy inside that car. A well-deserved win.
Mark, one of the toughest classes to win modified. I tell you what, you did very well. Where'd you qualify?
8th position, which wasn't too bad, I suppose, considering the tough field, you know.
Very tough field. To win an Australian national title, you've got to be very proud of that.
I'm wrapped. Words can't say enough. I'm really wrapped. I've been trying for so long to win this, and it's finally paid off.
It's an emotional thing, isn't it?
It is. It's great.
Good on you, Mark.
Right.
We congratulate you.
Thanks very much. Thank you.
To the final of Supergas at the 96 TAC Nationals. Robbie has a party on screen right now, and then we've got Des Wollstonecroft in the VR Commodore.
Two extremes of motor vehicles. Wollstonecroft, the VR Commodore, as a party to professional performance Mazda RX-7. 990 heads up. Supergas at its best. Oh boy, big red light for Robbie Racer as a party. 2.34 reaction. And Des Wollstonecroft, a brilliant victory in the tough field here at the Nationals.
Des Wollstonecroft, the 990 class, super gas. You kept running those 990s.
Yeah.
Didn't top qualify.
No, it was pretty close for 9909. That was close, but not close enough.
Hey, you give it everything in a final, though. You had the red light, so you didn't care.
No, I was flat out at that speed, like 989. I thought I would have probably went a little bit quicker, but the air must have got a little bit warmer than that. Like the run before, I went an 86, and I didn't change the car, so perhaps it was a bit warm. But no, very happy with this. No worries.
And so he should be, Steve. Des Wollstonecroft, winner of the Nationals in Supergas. We're now into competition bike at the TAC Nationals.
Paul Andrews on screen now in his Suzuki, the Cosworth piston-sponsored bike, and then we've got Lou Cotter in the Ultra Chrome blue bike in lane 2.
Cotter tried to win his 4th Nationals here, Steve, while Paul Andrews, despite all of the success he's had around the country, winning an Australian Drag Racing Series championship, he's yet to win the Nationals.
And up against a tough competitor in Lou Cotter.
943 index for Andrews, 847 for Lou Cotter. Nearly 1 second separates these two. A little bit of a staging duel. No one wants to go in first. Peter Single's chief starter, I am sure, will come up in a moment, Steve, and motion both of the riders to go into stage. Yep, here he comes. Both riders been told. Connor's in. Andrews is in. Lights down. Andrews away. A great reaction. 4:49. A 5:43 for Luke Cotter. And Andrews looks to be on a charge through to his first win at the Nationals. He does. He gets it, a great win. A 9:39.
Thanks, John. Mate, we got there. It was unbelievable. Thanks, Paul. D competition bike, the Suzuki, 10:35 under the national index. What else can you say?
Well, we are absolutely stoked. The bike's sold. This is the last meeting it ran, and we put $1 million worth into the motor to get it to go. And you just can't go out on a better note to do that. So, well, C-Comp next year and Pro Bike, we hope so.
Okay, well, D-Comp, you knocked it around this year. Congratulations.
Well, thank you very much.
Into the big one, the Superstock final at the 96 TAC Nationals. Gerald sees Les Heinz in that beautiful De Jersey-sponsored Camaro, and Peter Michaels from South Australia in the Australian Championship car.
Yeah, the Stinger, Car Alarms, Holden Monaro, Peter Michaels running A Street, 10:35 index in partnership here with Tony Busher. Les Heinz, the index 983. And originally Les Heinz's index was 10.00. Peter Michael, though, in A Street, he's done not too bad, 10.41. He's only dropped that 6/100ths of a second. Les Heinz, 1700ths.
Once again, down to reaction time in this level of competition. Peter Michaels out of the line first, but the better reaction time goes to Les Heinz. It's going to be a tight one down the finish line.
These cars almost side by side. Michaels, index difference, got it for him. The Stinger team takes a great win.
Well, Peter Michael, the A Streeter, 10.40 started the index, and you finished with a 10.21.
Yes, well, I just can't believe after 10 years we've finally done it. We had major troubles with the engine during qualifying, and we were really lucky just to patch the thing up and make it to the final. I just can't believe it.
Well, it was well done. Great run, though, 10.21.
Yes, it was a very close run. Les had a bit of trouble with his just at the end of the track, and it just gave me that little bit of an edge, and we just snuck in just on the finish line.
Okay, winners are grinners.
Thank you.
Well, winners are grinners, Steve, and at the Nationals, if you win, you can grin for as long as you like.
And let's see who's going to grin in the final of Competition Eliminator at the 96 TAC Nationals. Rodney Rainford and Graham Silk on screen now. In the blue car, Alan Davidson, the owner of the vehicle, and this is a Ford-powered dragster, a Chevy-powered dragster in lane 1. Both running C dragster, 8.46 dial in for Rainford and 8.38 dial in for Silk.
And Silk got out first, a 4.12 reaction, a 5.16 for Rainford, and the power of the Ford Cleveland has taken Graham Silk through for the win. Well done, Terry and Alan and the whole crew. Fantastic job.
A great return to the sport by Graham Silk with another major victory.
Graham, you turned up with a Ford.
Have you driven a Ford lately? I have.
Well, it screamed its way to a great win, though. 331 cubic inches?
335 cubic inch.
Right.
It's a D-stroke, 351. It's
and
just... Go.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, well, you've got another Australian title. Did you expect to come down here and just walk away like that easy?
Oh, don't be silly. I haven't driven a car for 12 months. I broke me back the last time I was in one, so we expected to go all right because we knew we had plenty of power with the thing, so it's just come together pretty well. That's all
It'll
I
take about a month to wipe the smile off your face?
At the moment, right now, yeah.
Okay,
sure.
Back to the Australian Capital Territory then?
Yeah, that's right. We'll go back tomorrow, but we'll be back here. Sure.
Okay, congratulations, and I know we'll see you back next year.
Well, it was great to have Graham back here, winning the Nationals. Now it's the first of the Group 1 categories, and what a way to begin. Top door slammer final, and the big man himself, the king of burnouts, Vic the Bray.
And listen to that crowd reaction to the king of burnouts there, Gerald. And coming in right alongside him in lane 2 in the Valvoline sponsored 57 Chevy, Peter Gratz.
And Gratz is not big on the burnouts. He said he pays for the tyres. He doesn't want to destroy them on the burnouts. He wants to leave it for the run. Now it's the battle of the Murray Anderson built 57 Chevys. The battle of the oil companies, the battle of the big buck Victor Bray with the Castrol Konica support, and the battle of Peter Gratz, who's got some good support from Valvoline, but not quite as much as Victor.
And I believe the story goes, Gerald, that Peter Gratz came up to Victor in the pits in Queensland several years ago and said, "Hey Victor, who builds these cars? Where can I get one of these built?" And Victor helped him out and put him in the right direction. I bet you now he's thinking, "Oh my God, what have I done?"
The worst advice he gave was when he said to Victor, "What engine do you recommend?" And Victor said, "Go and buy one of these." And that's what Peter Gratz has armed himself. Done a whole lot of learning since. Good reaction time to Gratz, a 482. Victor a 535. This is going to be a great race. Gratz has got the first top door slammer title. Oh boy, what an upset.
Peter Gratz with a 663 over Victor with a 664. What a great race.
Fantastic. History made. Peter Gratz, the winner. 96 Nationals, top door slammer. Go to the replay. Reaction time advantage to Gratz there by 5/100ths of a second. The Valvoline Chevy held Victor out the whole way down the track. There's the win. That's history. The first one.
Peter Gratz's crew celebrating there. The Valvoline team, a big winner at the Nationals.
Victor, you set a brand new Australian record for top speed, 215 miles an hour.
217.
217. Yep. Shut my mouth. And full quarter-mile burnouts.
Oh yeah, we're out there trying to make it all happen for us, the crowd, the sponsors and everything. I got to take, the guys here at Konica first weekend in drag racing. They loved it, but I couldn't have given them a win. Peter's a really tough guy to win, to beat in the final. All my friends at Castrol, they're here. They've been here before.
And those Magic Sixes?
Yeah, the car ran really well. It didn't actually win. It didn't run the time it needed to run on the money run. We had the mile an hour. We had it hopped up. A few little problems, but that's the way it goes. Motor racing's motor racing, and we're real happy. Could have been an awful lot worse, and we'll take the runner-up spot.
Peter Gratz, we call it top door slammer. It's more like pro mod in America, but I'll tell you what, it was like war out there.
Yeah, I mean, we heard there was 9 entries for the Nationals, and we really wanted to put on a good show. All the guys in top door slammer, we really wanted to prove it to the people and the track official, or the guys that run these tracks, that top door slammer deserves a place in the Andra racing whatever, and all the guys that turned up, I mean, they all put in effort, and we really hope that the public and the officials sort of appreciated the show that we put on.
Well, you did a great job in doing that. You showed us some great smoky burnouts, and well done.
Yeah, well, it took me a while to learn. They're not as easy as what you think. Victor does a fantastic job with doing the burnouts, and I don't think a lot of people realise how hard they are, because these things are so touchy and it's so easy to over-rev them.
Well done, Peter Gratz. And now we're into the final of Pro Stock Motorcycle. Igor Krasnowski, number 2 on the bike there, the Kawasaki from Melbourne. St Albans in Melbourne. And alongside Les Donnan on the Castrol Konica Suzuki of Trevor Birrell Racing.
Number 1 and 2 in Australia in Pro Stock Motorcycle Racing. These two guys running alongside each other for the final here at the 96 TAC Nationals.
Now, Krasnowski got to the final by defeating Gavin Eales on a hole shot. Eales ran 1/10 of a second quicker. Krasnowski hole shot him off the start line. Can he do it again? He has done it off the start line. The job's there off the start line. Will Donnan come back? Will the quacker hold him out? Krasnowski's done it again. Oh, what an upset. 795 to 785. Krasnowski has done it on a hole shot.
3 out of the last 4 meetings, and the big one, the Nationals.
That's right. It's unbelievable. It's been an excellent, 5 months for us, and we're hoping to carry on the way things have been going.
And hole shots, that's what you're good at.
That's right.
That's what won it in the final?
Exactly. All the meetings I've won, been through whole shots.
Okay, third qualifier, but you still came in, beat the top qualifier for third place.
Only Kawasaki out there too, so we were going to give up with the Kawasaki, you know, 6 months ago. We got this new engine from the US, and the guys have really looked after me, so...
Kawasaki's forever?
Well, looks like it.
Magnificent job by Igor Krasnowski. 2 events in a row he's won by a whole shot. Terrific.
Into Top Fuel Motorcycle, the final at the 96 TAC Nationals. And we have to say, Gerald, that these are the 2 super bikes of Top Fuel Motorcycle.
Who's going to forget the final last year, Steve? We'd never seen a side-by-side 6-second run. Tommy Peter Allen there on the Pentor bike. Phil Bluey Howard there on the Wall-Off bike. Went side-by-side, 6 seconds each. Phil Howard also topped 200 mile an hour for the first time, won the event, then fell off.
Then stepped off it, that's correct. Peter Allen in the near lane, Phil Howard in the far lane. This is motorcycle racing at its best. Top Fuel bikes, supercharged Kawasaki's. Let's see who can take it home this year at the 96 TAC Nationals.
Oh, identical reaction times. Phil Howard on a roll, though. What about this? 647, 211 miles an hour. Unbelievable.
Phil Howard, Top Fuel bike, the 4th fastest pass in the world. I hope you realise that. I hope that sunk in. A 647 at 211 miles an hour. Do I hear California Hero come?
Yeah, with a bit of luck we opened in the States in August, September this year. With a bit of luck we'll do a couple of match races at the US Nationals, but we also want to take in a couple of races. As everyone knows, good odds is as good as anyone, so, you know, we plan to go over and kick their butts if we can. So, but we really need some sponsorship, so if anyone out there's got a few $1 million or a block of flats that I want, we greatly appreciate it.
Well, Steve, have you got a set of a block of flats?
No, I haven't.
Pro Stock final at the 96 TAC Nationals.
What about $1 million?
Bluey, there's no doubt about him. Okay, this time we've got Bruce Leak in the Oldsmobile in lane 2, and right on camera now we've got Tony Wedlock in the magnificent Pontiac Trans Am, and this one is going to be an extremely tough race. These guys capable of almost identical ETs in Pro Stock like the whole field is, so this is going to be a race.
Wedlock has run 798 and 796 in eliminations. Leak has run 807 and 806. So on paper you'd have to give it to Wedlock. Conditions have improved. Leak has red lighted. It's all over. Wedlock, his 2nd Nationals victory, Steve.
Brilliant run by Tony Wedlock, and how disappointed would Bruce Leak be with that red light?
790 for Tony Wedlock, his 2nd Nationals win, and Sue's ecstatic.
Tony Wedlock, the factory hot rods, I tell you what, they are fantastic.
Yes, Colin. I think we really, Pro Stock as a bracket's really covered itself here in glory this weekend. You know, it was brilliant racing, and, you know, I feel quite honoured to be up here collecting a winning trophy.
Nice, those Christmas trees, aren't they?
They certainly are. You know, this is my 3rd one, and it still means exactly the same to me as the first ones. You know, I'm proud and honoured to be here standing holding it.
Well, Tony Wedlock, we know you'll be back next year. Bigger and better things?
Oh, look, Calder Park's a fantastic facility. The event here is excellent, and, you know, we'll be back here with bells on.
Well, Steve, Tony Wedlock is certainly welcome any time he wants to come back. There's Bruce Leak's big red light in the final of Pro Stock Eliminator, a 3.90, 1/100th of a second. But Tony Wedlock extended the advantage down track, a 790 to a 797. 169 miles per hour to Tony Wedlock. He'll be back next year.
The Nitro Funny Car Final at the 96 TAC Nationals sees Alan Dobson and Peter Russo making the battle. The Auto Pro Dodge Daytona of Russo and the Southside Engine Centre vehicle of Alan Dobson.
Yeah, Dobson trying to win his first Nationals, while Russo is trying to equal the record of Jim Walton with 4 Nationals victories. There's the Auto Pro Dodge Daytona. Here comes Dobson on the throttle. Boom! It's let go. The blower has banged yet again, like we saw in qualifying. Alan Green obviously disappointed as team owner. Alan Dobson hands up. What else can he do? Takes a bow. Look at the replay here, Steve. Bang! The burst panel out of the body. Oh, that would have rung his ears. Another angle. Bang! Absolutely shocking under that body. Alan Dobson banged the blower, pulled off to the side. Disappointed guy.
Mongrel. Oh, shit. We're in with the chase too, weren't we? Tell us what happened. Oh, mate, just stood on the throttle, got the revs up. She just started making some good heat and some power, and she just blew up big time, eh? Just broke the supercharger in half, blew the thing in half, and yeah, a bit of a small fire, unfortunately. But we're here in the finals, and we're happy to get this far. We're really wrapped. We're happy for Peter.
Off the track?
Nah, not really. I was still conscious, so...
Of course he'd be conscious because his ears would have been ringing so bad.
Okay, back to Peter Russo on the start line. What a copybook race this has been for Peter, qualifying right up the top of the field with that great run, and now he's going to take it through to the wire for the final in funny car.
4 Nationals titles for Peter Russo. Smokes the tyres at half-track, shuts it off to be nice and safe. But an equal record with Jim Walton, the Auto Pro Dodge Daytona funny car of Peter Russo. 4 Nationals titles, and that's something to be very, very proud of for he and his wife Helen.
Yeah, great effort by the Auto Pro team this weekend. The working class hero, as they call him. He smokes the tyres there on the replay, but well done to Peter Russo.
Peter, 4 times Australian funny car champion. That run, that 5.39 would have qualified you in the ATSCO Nationals ahead of Gary Densham.
Yeah, someone told us that before. I thought it was pretty good, actually.
It was a great run, but 4 times.
Yeah, hasn't really sunk in yet. We're just sort of that tired from working and so relieved. But I'd say in a couple of days it's the highlight of our life.
Well, it's got to be the highlight of your life. Fastest funny car run ever in Australia.
Yeah, Gerald tricked us last night. When he said the 39, I thought, well, that's not bad. And then he said the 281, that really blew us away. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah. Well, great. Go and enjoy yourself. Don't get yourself a headache.
No, if you drink and drive, you're a bloody idiot.
Well done, Pete. If you drink then drive, you are a bloody idiot at the TAC Nationals. The 96 version, the 30th annual running of the Australian Drag Racing Championships on behalf of Andra here at Calder Park.
The final of top alcohol eliminator, Gary Phillips and Stan Tyndall. What about this pair, Steve, coming into the final round? Tyndall in the semi-final ran 5.89. Well, had that have been last week, that would have got him lane choice any time. It didn't, because Gary Phillips ran 5.87. This race should be an absolute doozy.
These two guys have been the cars to beat all weekend here at the 96 TAC Nationals, and this is going to be a blinder. These two guys have got these cars so well set up and so similar, as proved in the semis. Let's see what happens. Clean greens, Gerald.
Phillips the slide advantage off the line of 412 to 426. 580 side by side. Phillips a 587. Tyndall 589. What a great race.
Yeah, you've just taken away the biggest thing that drag racing has to offer in Australia. Good luck to you and congratulations.
Thank you very much. No, that's fantastic. It really is. And thanks everybody. Thanks to Tyndall for a great final too. And thanks to our crew.
Well, look at the replay, Steve. A 4.12 reaction time for Phillips, but Stan Tyndall was right there at 4.26, and they ran side by side the entire length of the quarter mile. Amazing.
And as they get to the finish line, it's less than 1 metre between the two cars, and what a great victory for the Phillips crew.
I'm going to let you tell a story, Gary, because in top alcohol, we've seen the first side-by-side 5.8s in Australia, but what did you actually do?
For what?
Well, top qualified. Keep going.
Oh, okay. Low ET, top speed, both ends of the record, top qualified and won the race. That's the whole 9 yards.
Are we happy?
Yeah, we're grinning on what? And I said it before, and Calder Park probably finished the same from the old Milwaukee beer company in America, but it doesn't get any better than this. We're happy.
Okay, Aussie Bananas, off you go.
Thanks, Colin.
Well, there isn't a happier winner on the face of the earth, I think, tonight, Steve.
Down to the final race of the Australian National Drag Racing Championships here at Calder Park. Many thanks to the Australian National Drag Racing Association, and we're right down to Top Fuel, the final run of the night.
Well, it's two veterans of the sport, Jim Reed and Steve Reed. Jim, 13 times Australian champion, 11 times winner of the Nationals in all different categories. Tommy Steve Reed has only raced at the Nationals 4 times, and he has won twice. Now, can he make it 3 victories in 5 attempts? Boy, that would be a magnificent achievement if he does.
He's certainly been the car to beat all weekend, Gerald. The Santos Cranes Top Fuel dragster now moving in lane 1, the furthest away from the camera. Jim Reed in lane 2, both cars pre-staged, bringing on the stage like this is the final of Top Fuel.
Fully staged away. Both of the drivers have left almost identically. The Pom's out in front. He's got it for Santo. Santos Cranes, Rapasada Racing and Steve Reed have won the Nationals.
Looking from behind, this will be a fantastic shot. Now we go to the head-on shot of these cars as they come down the track. Watch them walk all over this magnificent quarter mile here at Calder Park. They come down very close to Steve Reed, come through the finish line, and he is there first. And look at the glow on the headers.
The glow on the header pipes are 506 at 283 mile an hour defeats Jim Reed 513. The crew go berserk. The Santos Cranes, Top Fuel and Jim Reed racing cars, the quickest side-by-side race in Australian drag racing history. And what a way to finish the 1996 TAC Nationals here at Calder. The replay again. The reactions, 0.485 to 0.486. Almost identical. What's 11,000 horsepower. Leave the start line. 6-foot-high flames. A great win.
How good does this feel? This is the first time for you as a driver or an owner that you've won a Nationals.
Yeah, that's right. This is my first one.
Mate, get a bit excited. Come on, this is fantastic.
What can I say? Thanks for everyone. I don't know what to say.
He just doesn't know what to say. He is just so overcome with emotion. He just really wants to go and sit down and hug his driver.
This is from
Hold
my
on.
son, Louis.
Bit higher.
This is from my son, Louis.
Steve Reed, congratulations. Top Fuel Championship this year. Last year, Top Alcohol Championship. When are you going to stop?
Thank you.
No, it's a habit. It's habit forming. This.
Right, it's a great.
It's a really, it's a really, really great track, and the guys work hard. And over 3 days, I mean, to try and keep the track in good condition, which we were very consistent. We did 6 passes between 5:04 and 5:11, which is I don't think anybody's ever done before. So it's, we're really, really pleased. And we didn't want to beat ourselves, which we've done before. We just wanted to get down the track and win the drag race. If the 300 had come, it'd have been a bonus, but we didn't go after it.
Okay, well, you won the title, and I guess that's what you're going to go home very pleased about.
Well, the best thing is, I mean, we're now number 1 in the points. We're leading the championship. So it's we're really pleased about that. And going into Adelaide, it's looking good.
And I guess you're going now to celebrate.
Well, I think we might have 1 or 2, yes.
Might see you later on. See you later.
Thanks very much.
Well, what a great way to end such a great event. Steve Betts, the 96 TAC Nationals, record crowds, record competitors, and a record-breaking event.
Yes, congratulations to all the competitors, all the fans that came along to the 96 TAC Nationals. Many thanks to TAC, our major sponsor for this event. And, of course, many thanks to the Australian National Drag Racing Association, the people that provide the rules, the racing and the competitors to such a great event as this event here at Calder.
Well, we hope you've enjoyed the 96 TAC Nationals. We'll see you back here at Calder Park for the 1997 TAC Nationals. We look forward to your company then. I'm Gerald McDonald. Goodbye.